No traffic jams up here as we glide serenely above a Saturday city that has escaped the gridlock of all-out industry and returns to a more relaxed weekend flow of mechanical and human cargo. And about 50,000 are going to be drawn like happy moths to the flame that you're looking at, the flame of Lansdowne Road. Beautiful evening, crisp and clear, just enough bite in the air to let you know it's November. And if it's Saturday and it's November, there's a good chance that there's some rugby in the offing.
Argentina dump Ireland out of the Rugby World Cup.
Final game of the Guinness series for November. Away goes Stockdale! Terrific try! Likely to be 80-plus minutes of bone-crunching rugby football played at the very highest level. Bowden Barrett, and he attacks the base, and he's gone! Try! The All Blacks restore the pride in their performance.
The USA are in town, an opportunity for some Irish fringe players.
You know, this is the time to show exactly what you're capable of.
Europe's Rugby Festival or Jamboree is just about set to go.
Sexton back in the pocket, he's going to try for it! A drop goal for Ireland to win the game! He's done it, Johnny Sexton! Ireland and Carney up for the ball, where's it gone? Ringwell's dives on it, and Ireland Grand Slam champions. Well, it's autumn time, and that means the Rugby World Cup is upon us. Well, another World Cup disappointment at the quarter-final stage for Ireland.
And what's wrong with a bit of optimism? Certainly the supporters have been getting their wallets worth recently and are hoping that this streak can kick on for just another 11 months or so as Rugby World Cup Japan peaks over the horizon. It's the first of 3 consecutive Saturdays to bookend a year of dizzy altitude for Irish rugby. Argentina, so often our nemesis at World Cups, face an Irish team that, bar Conor Murray, look in rude health and form. Kick-off is at 6:30. And that optimism surely filtering through to the players in the coach, who as ever under Joe Schmidt seemed to sweat the occasion. Not a bit. At least visibly, but many, including the returning Sean O'Brien, know that very few places are locked down. Even Peter O'Mahony mentioned as replaceable these days. He's not. And the back row standards just seem to get higher and higher. Argentina will be there, of course, and looking to provide their by now standard tournament excellence at the World Cup after a highly credible Southern Hemisphere Championship. Today, though, they test themselves against the champions of the North. Yeah, good evening and welcome. It's always good to be here at the Aviva when the autumns roll around. But with Ireland as Grand Slam champions and with that World Cup less than a year away, the mood is a little giddier than normal. But we've just been watching, myself, Stephen, Brent and Eddie, the match that has ended in the last half an hour or so. We saw the All Blacks just get over the line against England. Initial, I suppose, thoughts on that and its relevance to the Irish assault on the World Cup?
Well, I think it was a bit of an arm wrestle on a very wet day, so it wasn't a great game of rugby. It was always going to be tight, but I think, you know, England will be happy that they put in a big performance, nearly stole it. New Zealand won't be happy that the game got that close, which is not a good omen for us. They'll want to put in a big performance next week. But in terms of the World Cup, it just shows there's so little in it between these top teams on any given day. That can happen.
England happy, but they missed a great opportunity.
They did miss a good opportunity, and I suppose they'll argue about whether
the offside
the laws was offside. No, I thought it was offside, but it's easy for me to say. But I think Eddie is right. I think, how does that reflect for the Irish match? I think New Zealand will still come here hurting. Their game management was poor. I think Steve Hansen will say, look, when conditions are like that, play wet weather rugby. Don't try to play firm ground rugby, which they did. I didn't think Beauden Barrett had a good game. Some of their key playmakers didn't play particularly well, so they'll come looking to bounce back. But they won't be particularly happy with the way they manage the game.
Stephen, they kept going for the $1 million pass, though. That's what New Zealand do, and who are we to criticise them?
I know, but I think you got to give England a small bit of credit. The way they went down to South Africa last week, they got battered up front, and then they somehow got the victory in the end, and they needed a reaction, and they got that. The first 20 minutes, 30 minutes, they were brilliant. The roll maul was very good. So
they're back.
I wouldn't say they're back because they didn't win the game.
But they're capable of being back, aren't they?
They are, yeah. They're capable of big guys to come back into the squad.
There's some
again,
big players coming to come back into the squad. I think Eddie Jones will be happy enough. He'll give out about not winning, and he'll bellyache about the decision, but he knows himself that performance today really throws on a marker.
Takes a bit of pressure off too.
Totally,
even though it's a defeat.
It leads to the World Cup. That's the thing. I mean, they've got Tuolangi and all the Vunipolas to come back.
Yeah.
There's some big name players to come back before then.
And everything we say for the next 11 months is going to be within that context of a World Cup. Today, then, in terms of the jigsaw that Joe Schmidt has put together and is putting together in his 4-year plan since the last disappointment, what pieces need to be found under the couch, so to speak?
Well, there's probably 3 positions that he knows he's got depth everywhere else, but I suppose the 10 position, we know Joey Carbery's next bit up there. The number 9 position, because of Conor Murray's injury, he's been his hand forced a bit there. So I think at the moment looks like between Marmion and McGrath, but we'll see next week is when that decision will probably be made. And then the final one is full back. It's hard to imagine that Lorimer would have started today had Rob Kearney been fit, but the fact that Kearney's out, Lorimer starts, and this is the real test for Lorimer, and it's a good one because we don't know who the backup full back is for Joe Schmidt at the moment. I'm not sure.
Everything else is clear.
Everything else is he's done a fantastic job in everywhere except that key position, and it's probably no harm now to get drilled down there and find out who's the next man up.
We'll take a look at the team, because there does seem to be a kind of a succession plan for every position. But as you're saying, fullback is an interesting one. I think Rob Kearney was in black tie last night getting an award at the UCD Alumni Awards. That wouldn't stop him playing.
But there was also chat of Robbie Henshaw being, in 15 this week. He can play there. There's a few
he
options.
Can play there, but has he played there enough?
And I wouldn't want to see him play there. I think his best position's in the centre, and that's why he's selected there today.
But the problem with, we can throw 3 or 4 names, guys, who could play there in a pinch, but we're talking about someone going to a World Cup that if Rob Kearney goes down, and given his injury profile, could happen a lot. If he's unlucky, who's going to step in? And we know it's going to be fine, and we don't know. That's the point.
The problem is Lama is brilliant. We know that, but as Eddie said, he hasn't been tested yet. What you get with Rob Kearney is such a consistency. He does the basics well. Can Lama do that? Because you're certainly going to need, if he steps into Kearney's role next week against the All Blacks and they improve their kicking game, they will certainly target him. They'll say, yes, he's dangerous on the counter-attack, but we won't give him so much ball.
It's so exciting for him today.
There's 3 particular areas we don't know if he. I mean, he's ticked all the boxes, but we have to see, can he tick the box in terms of his defensive positioning in the backfield? Can he get to those kicks with plenty of time? His own kicking game out of his own half, is he accurate on that? And defensively, we'd have to say that's the one part of the game there's a question mark, because he has been known to miss tackles.
And will all those be tested today then?
I would expect so, yeah. It would be, and I think that's what we need to know today from him. If he ticks the box again today, there's no indication he won't, but we have to get it done, and today is a good day
I think that the selections are also the composition of the back row. I think the second row, is he going to go with a more mobile type of player than Henderson to Toner? He would have been slightly concerned the All Blacks line out today was very good, so he'll look at, does he include Toner in there, and also the combination of the back 3 and at scrum half. So he's a few decisions to make.
Sure, it's all about balance. You look at the back row, and Peter O'Mahony's in there because he brings balance to it. When Rob Kearney plays against the big teams, he brings that balance in the back 3. So do you need this exciting guy who's going to, every time he touches the ball, he's going to try and make a line break against the big teams? Maybe not. So for me, it's just finding that balance, and I think with Rob Kearney in there, the balance is right.
Okay. Going back to the back row, Sean O'Brien's a big game from today, because if he plays well, I think he plays again next week. But Joe Schmidt has a problem next week with the All Blacks. You've got to have a Lucy on the field, someone a groundhog. For that reason, Dan Levy's on the bench, Josh van der Flair has been around. There's a lot of kind of movement there that could change it, and O'Brien knows today he's got to make a statement.
It's also an area of slight weakness for New Zealand.
Well, isn't the perceived wisdom that Sean O'Brien is a man they fear from experience?
Yes, but Eddie is right in saying that you go out sometimes with the specialists against New Zealand, because you've got a guy like Beauden Barrett can break you, so you need somebody that leads the defensive screen pretty quickly. Josh van der Flier does that. You've got Levy or something who's a slightly faster. O'Brien is kind of still, he's a world-class player, let's face it, and he's still stuck between that
he's
kind
more
of
a 6 and a 7.
6, 7.
First and foremost, he's got to get the 80 in today or close
that's
to
the
it.
other thing, yeah.
I mean, what's your opinion on where he stands in a World Cup a year?
I think this game is vital for him. I think this could be make or break for him. He's been out injured a lot over the last year. He's been playing for Leinster the all game. He captained in there against Benetton. He's just playing okay. He's not the barnstorming John O'Brien that we've seen busting through tackles, but I think he's managing his game a little bit better. He's being a bit cuter, a bit smarter, not
Is
running.
that explosiveness still there?
Isn't it? Like he's a big game player.
Exactly. He's a big game player, and that's why I think today he will turn it on, and it would not surprise me if he's wearing the man of the match at the end of the game.
And putting himself absolutely front and square for next week, which again, we
if he
shouldn't
plays
talk about
well,
too
if he
much.
plays
but
well,
it's the
he's
Brit.
playing next weekend.
Oh, absolutely. And then the second row is the other area that is a bit up in the air. Devin Toner's on the bench. I think what Toner brings is security at the line-out.
Sure.
So today,
He's a banker,
it's
yeah.
interesting that if the line-out doesn't fire well today, and it'd be under pressure, it's a very big Argentinian pack. So if that line-out doesn't fire well today, I think Toner will start next week against New Zealand because they have a very good defensive line-out.
Do you know what I'm noticing, lads, from this conversation? And it is a positive thing. These are small things. We're talking about twists and tinkering.
We're tinkering, we're fine-tuning in terms of who's up next. There's no question we've plenty of options, but what's the best option? So I think that's what he'd be trying to do.
But everyone loses their life all of a sudden because we have options.
But you're so many.
It's great. It's a great thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great thing, but we're just trying to get inside Joe Schmidt's head and see that line-out combination today could be the one he wants if it fires well at the line-out.
Okay.
If it struggles at the line-out, he's got to think of coming back with Devin Toner because he's a banker.
He's also going up against the best line-out in the world, so you've got to win your primary ball. But if you look around now, you could possibly pick 3 Irish teams if you didn't take the subs, or even 4 that could go to a World Cup and still compete. And I was talking to a couple of guys last week, international second rows, and they said actually Quinn Roux had a great game against Italy, and he's not even on the radar probably.
Yeah,
so
forgotten about.
there's a lot of, well, it's not forgotten about, but there's a lot of players. Look at the back rows. You've got about 12 or 13 players.
Wonderful. Long may it last. We've 11 months to get them all safe and secure. So let's take a break. When we come back, of course, we're going to focus on the opposition, the Argentinians, who've done a number on us 3 times in World Cups, but not as yet in history here at Lansdowne Road. Back in a moment. That's the scene from the air, and look at the weather, the clear skies. I mean, the town was like a puddle yesterday, and it was threatening the same a little bit earlier, but happy days. It's dry and relatively warm, about 7 degrees, and doesn't Dublin look good? All of those people on their way to Lansdowne, about 50,000 expected as usual. They'll take their time getting in here, especially excuse me, for an Argentinian match which doesn't set the pulse racing as much as the All Blacks, but yet there's something about them. Ledesma's here, he's only there 3 or 4 months. How do you judge their form?
Yeah, I suppose if you judge their form here, I don't really give them much chance today. However,
they're evolving very quickly.
World Cups, they are evolving, but when I played against Argentina, I always fancied my chances. There's just something, they always give up stupid penalties, stupid offloads, and I always fancied my chances. Scored a try down in that corner against them.
Yeah. Was one of your how many?
One of my 2, thank you. Shouldn't actually have brought that up.
No, I was going to say.
Were they 4 points?
No, it's actually Mr. Heasley that put me in the corner, but look, I think they give you opportunity, and Ireland will hopefully capitalise on that today.
Yeah, I suppose the point I'm making is because they have such a change, a structural change. We all go on about how Irish rugby structurally has got it right.
They've changed more than any other nation because they were always a team that were known for sort of great scrummagers and very good up front, and then backs that were probably kickers rather than runners. That's changed a lot since they entered the Southern Hemisphere game. They now actually got a potent force in the back line, but as Stephen said, they'll score 3 or 4 tries, but they'll leak 5 or 6, and that's been their pattern. And also away from home, you know, in Buenos Aires and Mendoza and these places, they're a tough side to beat. You know, they used to have even the supporters are behind the barbed wires and stuff like that. It was a pretty intimidating place to be when I played down there in Mendoza and these places. But away from home, a bit flaky, you say, you know, defensively a bit. So, but still, you know, they were capable on the counter-attack of doing damage.
You're listening to Ledesma during the week. I mean, he didn't quite say, look, it doesn't matter, but he did say, we're going to make mistakes between now and the World Cup. We just care about the World Cup.
Well,
and if they hadn't got to 2 semi-finals, sorry, Eddie, you'd think that's wrong thinking.
But to be fair to them, they do view the World Cup, or they view their 4-year cycle through the prism of the World Cup. So in the middle, they always tend to be pretty poor. Like, we've beaten them plenty of times here in the middle, even comfortably in the last number of years. So I think they're kind of focused again now, which makes them a little more dangerous. The second thing is that Ledesma is trying to change the way they play a little bit. I think, as Popey referred to there, they got too lax in their game, they got too loose. It's not the Argentinian way. They're talking about a balance of running and kicking.
They've always been innovators, though.
They've always been innovators, but I think Ledesma is trying to bring back that kind of gritty Argentinian, in-your-face, tough kind of game that they used to play, and still keep the possibility of playing with the ball. Plus the fact he's bringing back more overseas players. They were shut out for a while. He's not particularly today, but he's working on that. I think he's seen as a kind of an iconic figure that can bring them back to where they were mentally as a team, play like Argentina, have an Argentinian way. And for that reason, this is a step along the way for him, and he's not got too worried today about Ireland. But at the same time, he would like to think if he gets Ireland, he could nick
and
it.
The kicking game has to be good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because the back three,
they're small.
They're small but dynamic,
dangerous
on the counter-attack. So if you're kicking right, you know, Johnny Sexton, one of the best kickers in the world, but if you get off, they will counter. So it's good preparation for the All Blacks.
Is it going to be kick chicken, as they say?
Well, it's like if you kick to McKenzie and these guys today, like they do here. That's just good preparation for New Zealand.
But you can play all this expansive rugby if you want, but you can't concede 33 points on average a game.
Yes.
No, that's what they're conceding. So, yes.
Not unless you're scoring 50 yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And they're changing, and they're changing for the good, but the foundation is with defence, and all the best team in the world have the best defences, so that's an area of the game they need to look at.
But I think that one of the guys says Sanchez is crucial. No,
sure.
He's
in
a guy
defense?
he's crucial. He's crucial in terms of his kicking game, because he's
a breaker.
He's well paid.
Well,
he
scored. The other point of he scored 4 tries, one of the top try scorers in the rugby championship. That's pretty good going for a fly half. He was on the field when they were leading at just up to half time, 31-7 in their last rugby championship game against. He went off the field.
When Australia
took him
back
apart.
and,
He's absolutely key to them, and he's a fella who will hurt you. He can kick and he can run. He's very creative, and if he has a big game today, we'll be tested. There's no doubt about that.
But he's an interesting character too, because he went back when they started this whole Jaguares project, and now he's done his time and he's gone back for the big money to France.
But I think he was brought back for that reason, to front it up and to put stability around it. It's much more stable now than it was, so I think his
basics aren't great though. Like he's a great ball player. He's a bit like Beauden Barrett. Well, Beauden Barrett's a world best player, but his situation, he'll use runners inside
what basics
and outside.
is he missing?
I think Argentina, apart from Greavy, where they probably give way to Ireland a bit is, unusually for an Argentina side, is in the tight five. I think good back row, good backs, but they're tight five.
And what about the famous switcheroo? There's Guido Petty, who's the second row going in at 7, or number 7. He might be
I
on
think it's a great line-out option for them. You know, Big Ian Henderson's talked during the week about the options that they have in the line-out. That's something that they're going to try and target. But when you're playing against Argentina, when I was playing, you were worried about their pack, you were worried about their scrum, their driving maul, how physical they were at the breakdown. You know, that's what you're worried about.
And you're not worried today.
I think Ledesma is trying to move back to that.
I know, but he hasn't got there yet.
And I think that's a statement bringing in Petty, who's a second row into the back row. This is a big,
but what's
big
it saying?
drive.
What's it saying is he's trying to get back to exactly
what we
But its
talked about.
transition today is, like, to be fair, people watching shouldn't expect this Argentina to be the same Argentina as we're going to get in 11 months.
Well, also playing a guy of that size, good for the lineouts, but around the field you lose something. So going up against, so he's presuming they're going to get their quality of ball. I don't know that they will. I don't know that they'll get 50 or 60%.
Well, something to look out for. So I mean, in terms of the line out, it's
line out. They've got 3 or 4 operators there down the back, 6'4",
and
6'5".
back to your point, Devon Toner on the bench then might be called into play.
I think if the line-out gets ropey, you can see Toner coming off the bench. But I would say that from Argentina's point of view, they are ranked 9th in the world behind Ireland, who are second. That ranking is realistic. So they haven't shot the lights out, but they're always dangerous if things go their way.
And they've been playing tough teams.
They've played tough teams. They've been playing in the Southern Hemisphere. So and the other thing that probably we didn't mention is that this is effectively the Jaguars team, who play as a club side. So there's that bit of, continuity among that. They know what they're doing all the time around the players around them. They don't have to be introduced to each other at first camp, you know.
But as you talk about the rankings, if they were playing, Fiji are ranked 10th, And if Ireland were playing Fiji today, you would expect them to put 30 or 40 points on.
Yeah,
You'd
those
expect
rankings
that.
are, we all know, suspect or can be. I mean, you know.
What do you say?
Well, 2nd and 9th, yeah, 2nd and 10th. Gonzalo Quesada, who's assistant coach of the Argentinians, is talking to Claire.
So you come here after a good rugby championship, those wins over Australia and South Africa. Is this a group of players growing in confidence?
That's the idea. We just started out this process with this rugby championship with Mario and this staff. And of course, we are not looking only behind the results or for results, but growing a little bit, put some structures in our identity, our culture, the way we play our rugby, the way we train, the way we do the things. And it's been working quite well. And this is a massive test for us and for a nice group of young players that will see what it's all about.
How do you view Ireland in the last couple of years as they've climbed up the world rankings?
Yeah, listen, I lived in France for the last 18 years. Now I'm back in Argentina, so I've been following Irish rugby really from close. And I think, Irish rugby and what Joe Smith did with Leinster first and with Ireland now is absolutely amazing. I think it's a great example for us, because maybe they don't have, Ireland doesn't have a lot of players like other countries in the Southern Hemisphere. They are like us also, that we have not a big amount of players, but they get the best out of them. They have a big identity. Maybe it's the best example on players playing, engaging themselves behind, committing themselves behind their identity. And for us, we talked a lot about that, because for Argentina that's important to know with this jersey what it represents, and it's our weapon like Ireland. So again, there's a lot of things to talk about for this game, and we are really looking forward for it.
Yeah, well spoken. Okay, still to come, we're going to have an interview with the boss, Joe Schmidt. And as well as that, we have a chance for you to make yourself extremely popular by winning a couple of tickets to next weekend's big game.
RTE Sport are giving you the chance to see Ireland take on New Zealand at the Aviva Stadium next Saturday, as Ireland seek a first home win against the current world champions. This great prize for you and a friend includes a 4-star overnight stay in Dublin, those all-important match tickets, plus €500 spending money. For your chance to win, answer this question. In which US city did Ireland defeat New Zealand in 2016? Was it San Diego, Chicago or Dallas? To enter, call 15 17 71 71 82 or text the word rugby followed by your answer and name to 57001. Calls from the Air network will cost €2.03. Calls from other networks may be higher. You must be over 18 to enter. Lines will close at midday on Tuesday, November 13th. Full details are on rte.ie/competitions, where the lucky winner will also be revealed.
Job done at the Aviva, and kick-off is at 6:30. Let's take one last loving look at the stadium from the sky before we get down to ground level for the action very shortly. Now, I mean, Joe Schmidt, obviously, you know you're a success as a coach when most of the speculation is really whether or not you're going to stay for another 4-year World Cup cycle rather than what's going on the pitch. But Michael Corcoran visited Carton House during the week and sat down for a lengthy chat with the boss, and this is what he came back with.
Is it fair to say that this isn't just a normal November in terms of a November series, given the fact that you have 12 matches left before you play any match in the Rugby World Cup? I mean, the Rugby World Cup may be next season, but it's on a lot of people's mind. I mean, it's a huge 12 months ahead.
Yeah, it's always a really big 12 months, you know, and I think you cannot get too distracted by what's in still a relatively distant future. Don't look too far ahead, because right here, right now, we've got to be focused on what's happening, you know, in the immediate future.
Given that, do you think that Ireland are in a kind of slightly different position now? You've mentioned about 12 months being a long time. Different position now than, say, 12 months ago, where you were in, I don't want to say the chasing pack, but you're now in a situation because of a Grand Slam, because of a series win over Australia, in Australia. You're now one of the teams there to be hunted by the others.
We were still ranked in the top 4 this time last year, so, you know, as long as you're in that top 4, you've got a target on your back, and now maybe it is the top 2, but that could disappear very, very quickly. And, you know, and it's only a number. You know, there's nothing tangible to hold on to from that. You know, what's tangible is a good player in front of you. What's tangible is an efficient line out against you. You know, we've got to take it bite-sized. And there are so many variables between this block and the next block, the Six Nations, where everything gets ramped up and everything becomes a little bit more immediate and relevant. You know, there's so many differences and so many variables between even now and then. Your personnel may change by up to 6 to 8 players. For this 4-week block, of which there are 3 weeks left, we're going to try to maximise our opportunity to work with the wider squad, the 42 selected players, and maximise what they can bring to the squad in this small bite-sized window. I think we're in a stronger place than we were 3 years ago, and you know, people talk about the depth built over the last 12 months. It certainly goes well beyond that 12 months. It has been three years in the building, but it's fickle. It's tenuous, and the vulnerability is always there that, you know, key players can still get injured. And, you know, people talk about, but there's depth now and you can replace like with like, but people can also be a little bit unrealistic about what is like for like, because players are described as world class because they'd probably make the world 15, but we haven't got 42 players in the world 15 because I'm not great at maths, but that doesn't fit in the first place, and there's a lot of other really good teams in the world who are contributing to that pool of players. So, you know, when you've got world class and you're really keen, that you bridge the gap as best you can.
I think undoubtedly we would agree on this. One player who is world class is Conor Murray. He's not in the squad. Could he feature at some stage during the course of the next couple of weeks?
He's a world-class player, he's a world-class character, and his work ethic has allowed him to get himself back into incredibly good shape. He's done a fair bit of training with us last week, passing sharp, his contact work was good. You know, his durability is back, and so he's not far away. You know, I wouldn't make any greater commitment than that, but he is close.
In terms of the 3 upcoming games, I mean, you've got, even we take them in order, you've got Argentina coming first, a team who, I'm going to use the word, but I don't mean it this way, they seem to kind of hibernate every so often after Rugby World Cup. They wake up, rub their eyes, and all of a sudden the World Cup is the following year, and we've seen that in the Rugby Championship this year.
Considering their summer form, losing 3 test matches at home, and then coming out and being really competitive on the road, and they're regathering their momentum. We feel capable that we can beat them. They certainly deserved the win they got over us in the World Cup. They played incredibly impressively, partly because we allowed them to, and partly because that's how good they are, you know, and what you saw is what you get from them.
In terms of New Zealand, you know, they're number 1 in the world. I mean, they're just constantly challenging the opposition and providing things that maybe we haven't seen before.
They're very selective about what they bring to a game, and then they have a skill and speed to play the game that, even if it's something somebody else has done, they just do it better. You know? And that's the unfortunate thing for all their opponents, and it's one of the reasons they're number 1. A lot of their players have played a lot of test matches for New Zealand, but even better, they've played a lot of test matches together. And so I think that real collective they bring, they work hard for each other. And so you meld all that into a black jersey that they take incredible pride in wearing, and you are up against it. They don't have to play to some stereotype. They'll play and they'll be very pragmatic at times, the All Blacks. And I think one of the things is that people get carried away with this romantic notion of how the All Blacks play. Yes, they can play like that, but it's a danger to just anticipate them playing one way. I think it's really important that you have a good look at the All Blacks before you play them, so that you're not distracted by these notions that people have about the way they play. I think it's their collective that they have, and I think it's that ability to play whatever way is demanded to best get the result. And if that's pragmatic, if that's narrow, if that's in the air, or if that is with the expanse. And the problem you've got is it's a little bit like predicting the Dublin weather. You don't know what's coming, and what you currently have can be totally different in 5 minutes' time. 2013 hurt. They stayed in the game, and I still look back at that, and we made the error to give them the ball back. You've got to make sure that you keep playing, that you don't try to go into your shell. But just occasionally, they don't quite get there. I just get the sense they're going to be tuned in for this Northern tour.
How important is that game against the USA after you've played two Tier 1 nations in terms of, I don't want to say the development of players, but bringing, or allowing players, or giving players the opportunity to play a test match who maybe don't have that huge degree of experience or exposure to international rugby?
Every test match is really, really important because, as you described earlier, we only have 12 before we do go to the World Cup. But we only have 12 in a year anyway. So you only actually get to say who you are, maybe, in an opportunity against a Tier 2 team 2 or 3 times in a season. The rest are all incredibly high-pressure matches. And one of the dangers is that you take your foot off the throat. The USA, they beat Scotland in the summer. I think there's an incredible danger of slipping off. That the most narrow loss we had last November was, the most narrow win we had could easily have been a loss against Fiji. We won by 3 points. We won against the Tier 1 team, South Africa, by over 30 points and won by about 10 points against Argentina. That's the risk. You talk about offering opportunity, but there's a real responsibility as well because it's a test match.
Yeah, it is a test match, and look at this. Robbie Henshaw pulling up in the warm-up, and it doesn't look life-threatening for sure, but it doesn't look great because he's gone down the tunnel. And we wonder now, Will Addison, who was originally not in the 23, looks like he's the natural replacement. We don't have confirmation of that, but that's, guys, what we're thinking, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got the bib off. He seems to be in the starting team in attack and defence. The boys right beside us here, we're doing a defensive drill, and it was the front 5, then the middle 5, and then there was Will Addison in the back 5. So I think he's going to start this game. Come off the bench last week against Italy. He's played 13 for Ulster a number of times this season.
What a season!
Yeah, what a season! What an introduction to rugby.
But you have to replace a specialist with that. But otherwise, it's too much jiggery-pokery to bring in Carberry or move Conway around or whatever. So if you've got somebody that's a natural centre, he's obviously going to come in.
Sure, but there was any amount of options, but it was sticky.
Yeah, but not specialist.
Keith Earls could have gone to centre.
Yeah, but again, not specialist.
Yeah, it's more straightforward, the least disruptive.
Yeah.
So
that hasn't been confirmed. That's what we think.
It will be. You're not stupid enough to.
Well, if he's tweaked his hammer there, he's definitely not playing. So,
for sure. What are we talking about all day, really, is strength and depth, and here we go. Here's another example of it.
Yeah, it's definitely not a negative. This is a positive. This is an opportunity for Will Addison to go out and express himself at home, the Aviva Stadium. He's got to take this opportunity. The boys have got to rally behind him.
It's a tough way to come in.
It is. It's a tough way to come in, but in some ways, there won't be the same nerves. He'll be got up out of bed this morning, not expecting to play this game.
And he broke his duck last week as well.
So I wish him all the very best. But it's it's a tough gig, as you say, but I'm really excited
But on
for
that
it.
nerves, I was listening to Graham Henry vis-a-vis modern players in general there during the week, and he was just saying that they just seem to be so calm now. They turn it on for match day, they turn it off. They're not, they're not at 8 and barbed wire.
Being in process, but it's really having a routine that you're comfortable with, that keeps you where you want to be, that you're not getting too excited or you're not getting too unexcited. You have to be in the right place to play. And they have to work at that. It's not an easy thing, but every player's different. Every player knows where he wants to be, and that's all part of it.
The nerves come a bit more now for players is because they're anxious and holding on to their positions. A few years ago they probably wouldn't be, because they said, okay, I can have a couple of off games, I'm still going to hold on to it. Now for strength and depth, they go out there and they don't have a good game, suddenly they're back down so that brings on its own nerves and anxieties.
Yeah, no, there's the boys in the changing room. Everybody's different, as Eddie said. There'll be guys in, really nervous in the toilets, almost feeling sick. There'll be guys sitting in the corner with a towel over their head saying nothing. There'll be other guys beating their chest and running off.
What were you? Were you a chest beater?
I just sat in the corner. Thought of my own role.
No, he didn't.
Made sure. What are you talking about? You never picked me. How do you know?
The headphones now. What music did you listen to?
That was why.
By the way, it's confirmed Will Addison is in, so best of luck to him. So he's getting his first crack at a start in a green jersey under, I suppose not that strange circumstance these days, but hopefully Robbie Henshaw, it isn't too serious. Now, we were going to talk about Joe just very briefly after that interview, and it was Rory Best's quote really that captured it for me. He says, no matter what Joe does, he's changed Irish rugby, and I thought, that can kickstart any discussion. That's fact.
Yeah, it is, and for me, I just was buying out of the game when Joe was coming in, and I never got to work under him, but the way he's transformed Irish rugby, he has to take a lot of credit, and the way he's developed players.
But let's be specific. I mean, how does he build a collective culture?
He changes the culture. That's exactly the word you use. And he changed that when he first came into Leinster, because when he first approached those players, he said, you're not going to be the biggest side in Europe, but you're going to be the best passing side. And ironically, I was listening to him speak the other day. What most of the players remember about Joe's first season, even in charge, is that they all had to shake each other's hand at training. So he's built a culture where the players respect and appreciate being there, and they play for each other. And he even says in that's the best you can get as a coach. Players that are playing, it's the old cliche, 110% better for each other. That is the way that he's changed the culture.
I think so, but shaking people's hands isn't going to make you the second best team in the world. He's developed the players, he's made them better, he's put strategy into their game. He just doesn't go out and pick the 15 best ball carriers to go out and light everything up. There's a lot of thought behind what he does.
It seems to be individually tailored, because you look at a 36-year-old guy like Rory Best, and he has a great communication with him, obviously, and then you have 21-year-old guys like Larmour. Tough to get into everyone's.
And he's also taken huge control of player management. That's become much more granular. Like, there was a time when all those player management things were blocked out for months. Now guys are being measured to the minute, how far they've run, how many tackles they've made, and he's got complete control of the provinces. Like, that was a while getting to that point, but they've actually handed it over to him. Plus the fact, I do have to give credit to the Irish academy system and school system. The number of players coming, there's guys coming through that, they're at full tilt at the moment. You see James Ryan, you see Lorimer, you see Stockdale. Every year there's a guy breaks on the scene. And
one guy, sorry, Eddie, slightly to cut across you though, but I just wanted to emphasise how important today is. I think, would you agree, for Kieran Marmion before we get to the commentators?
Yeah. Well, look, Marmion knows that he's got Luke McGrath breathing down his neck. And with Conor Murray out, who gets to start next week really is Joe's telling him, you're our number 2. So today is hugely important for him, and he knows that. A lot of pressure on him. McGrath didn't light it up last week, but at the same time, it's about not playing yourself out this week.
Well, it's also
play yourself in.
It's also about, I talked before about preparation for New Zealand. That's what we're looking at here, because that's what he wants, and that's going to come down to a box kicking game, because again, the Argentines are a counter-attack side, the All Blacks are a counter-attack side, so the box kicking has got to be spot on, because you give the ball back to this Argentinian back three, they can do some damage. So Joe Schmidt will be looking at Marmion's ability to control and manage a game.
Final thoughts, Stephen?
Yeah, I thought McGrath last week, his box kicking wasn't up to it, and I thought there might have been a change at 9 this week. Kieran Marmion, he's bided his time. What 22 caps he has in his belt. I know he's played on the wing, but he's been a stellar performer for Connacht all season, and he's thereabouts all the time. He's been in a lot of camps of Joe's.
Sure.
So he deserves an opportunity.
He has been Joe's second choice, but there's no doubt that McGrath and even Cooney are ratcheting up the pressure, which is a good thing.
Yeah, that hasn't been copper fastened as that number 2 spot.
That's the point.
Just one thing we didn't get on. What about yellow and red cards? We know that there's a rightful focus from the IRB coming on head contact with the head. It's a tricky area. people at home, what do they need to look out for?
It's hugely problematic at the moment. They are trying to make the game safer, and they're bringing regulations that are very strict about where you make contact, but there's unintended consequences. A game of big men running around at speed, changing direction, there's going to be accidents. And
there's no black and white law here.
No, most of them are accidents, and the referees are trying to manage it, but you are getting erratic moments when a player gets yellow carded or possibly red carded, and other players don't get carded, and that's all in the pot at the moment. And hopefully it doesn't change a game or turns on its head like today, like we've seen like even last week in England. It was really turned the game on its head.
It needs to work itself out, I suppose, as well as anything else. Okay, I'd say that's about time to join our commentary team as we see late change Ireland into the tunnel and out onto the Aviva turf for the first home November international. Time to join your commentary team, Donal Lenihan, and first, Hugh Cowell.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dara. And so Ireland launch into this November Test Series, hoping to continue what has already been a remarkable 2018. A Six Nations title and Grand Slam, a series victory against Australia in Australia over the summer, and a #2 world ranking ahead of kick-off against Argentina at the Aviva Stadium here this evening, in a stadium in which Ireland have won 12 of their last 13 games and are unbeaten in 9. The wind and torrential rain that's made for a miserable captain's run yesterday has thankfully fallen away, and while it's a cold and overcast evening in the capital, conditions are pretty much ideal for an international test match. Now, this fixture has plenty of history behind it. The most important of those coming in Rugby World Cups, where Argentina have come out on top 3 times to Ireland's 1, but with Ireland going for 10 wins in a row at the Aviva, with an almost fully fit squad at Joe Schmidt's disposal, despite what happened earlier on, Robbie Henshaw, the home side, are favourites to keep their 2018 run in decent order. Big night for a few players in green jerseys. CJ Stander knows what it's all about. Will Addison, I'm sure, hasn't had much time to settle into the nerves, and maybe that's a good thing. We'll wait and see how he reacts to his late call-up with the late injury in that warm-up to Robbie Henshaw. Looked like he tweaked his hamstring. And Argentina, I know their record here in Dublin hasn't been great. Can they address that here this evening with victory against Ireland? So teams lining up for the presidential salute. President-elect Michael D. Higgins, who I've been informed will have his inauguration tomorrow evening. And Argentina, just the last couple of minutes now to soak in the atmosphere here at the Aviva. Not quite full yet, but it will be in the next 3 or 4 minutes or so.
Please welcome Michael D. Higgins, accompanied by the President of the Irish Rugby Football Union, Mr. Ian McElrath.
So President Michael D. Higgins to greet both of the teams, starting with Argentina, of course, and beside me is former Ireland international Donal Lenihan. Donal, a big night for some players and for Will Addison. Just your quick thoughts on what he must be feeling right now.
Yeah, incredible opportunity for him. I mean, Will, he's only been part of the Irish squad since last August, joined Ulster from Sale during the summer. Did have, I think, 19 minutes against Italy in Chicago last week, but in some ways, you know, I think it's not a bad thing that he only found out so late. He didn't have to worry about it. I think the one thing, 13 is the most difficult position from a defensive point of view. I think it's a plus that he's played most of his rugby in that position for Ulster this year, given that he can also play full back. And you know, with Bundy Aki, Johnny Sexton, they'll have to talk him through a lot, but he is a quality player. Your opportunity arises, you have to take it.
He scored a try for Ulster against Leicester in the Rugby Champions Cup in their first game in the pool earlier this season. He's very quick feet and, as you say, equally adept at full back or 13, but his partnership today with Bundy Aki could be very successful. They're different types of players, Donald, but that pace at 13 with the strength and carry from Mundiaki is a formidable combination.
Yeah, it is, and Joe Schmidt is a very good judge of a player. He rarely makes mistakes, and this is a guy that he's had on his radar for a while. He did play at under 20 level for England, but his mother is from Fermanagh. That's why he qualifies for Ireland, and Joe Schmidt was very keen to get him over here. There was a suggestion at one stage during the week that he might even start this game at full back, which shows what a footballer he is. But it's going to be challenging, no question about that, because of all the players in the squad, he's the one that has spent the least time in the Irish system, and we know that Joe is big on systems, he's big on process, and that takes time to develop and understand.
Kieran Marmion as well. Well, the panel mentioned what a big night it is for him with Conor Murray still out injured. We don't know if he will come back into the squad ahead of New Zealand next week, but for Kieran Marmion, at the moment he is the number 2. Obviously Luke McGrath had a very good game against the Italians last week in Chicago, but a massive opportunity for Marmion here.
Yeah, it is. I mean, he has pedigree, to be fair to him. He started against England here in 2017 Six Nations when they were going for the Grand Slam. Conor Murray missed out on that game, and he had a super game. He came on as a sub against Australia in one of the November internationals in an emergency scenario, had to play on the wing, which he did. He defended magnificently. So he's a very good rugby player. The only little caveat with him, he's had 1 or 2 injuries this year, so he hasn't a massive amount of game time behind him. But that said, he's been part of the squad now for a number of years.
The anthems will be played for us today by the Garda Band under the baton of Inspector Pat Kenny.
So there we go, Ireland's call, Aaron Levine and the Argentinian national anthem. We're almost set for a kick-off. As expected, Joe Schmidt has made several changes to the team that started against the Italians. Healy, Best and Furlong reunite in the front row, with Ian Henderson and James Ryan getting the nod in the second row. Sean O'Brien makes a very welcome return after almost 12 months out at open side, joined Peter O'Mahony and CJ Stander. In the backs then, Conor Murray's continued absence means Kieran Marmion has an opportunity to show what he can do on the international stage. He partners Johnny Sexton for his 23rd Ireland cap. An injury to Gary Ringrose means that Bundy Aki and now Will Addison, following Robbie Henshaw's late withdrawal, team up in the centre with a back three of Keith Earls, Jacob Stockdale and Jordan Larmour, giving the Argentina defence plenty to think about. 5 changes from Argentina's last match against Australia in the Rugby Championship. Santiago Medrano makes just his second start at tight head prop, with Santiago Garcia, Botta coming in at loose head, and Augustin Cravey completing that front row. Guido Petty is a second row by trade, but he starts in the back row at open side tonight. That's the pack. In the backs, Thomas Kubeli is back in at scrum half to partner Nicolas Sanchez, and Bautista Delgui returns on the wing to form an equally formidable back three with Mojano and Boffelli. That back three battle is worth the admission fee alone. So that's the 2 starting teams. Surprised perhaps that Tyke Byrne doesn't feature after his performance last week, but Devon Toner picked as a very capable cover for the second row for Ireland, while Rodrigo Brunei and Lucio Sordoni will earn their first caps for Argentina if they come on. Beautiful evening in Dublin for a test game. It's a first Tier 1 test match for a referee, Nick Berry from Australia. Big night for him. His assistants today are Angus Gardner from Australia, Ludovic Kerr from France, and our TMO is David Grassoff. Donald Lennon, we are all set to go.
Yeah, atmosphere was a bit flat before the teams came out. Certainly the anthems, we know how passionate the Argentinians are, and you know, the stadium has just come alive. Hopefully the smoke from the fireworks gets out of the way as soon as possible.
Nick Berry blows the whistle for the first time, and Argentina get us underway. First touch for Keith Earls, and takes it into contact. Kieran Marmion to define Sean O'Brien. How brilliant it is to see O'Brien back in an Ireland jersey, back fit, and hopefully it stays that way with a massive 12 months ahead. Bundy Aki, Ireland looking to run it well inside their own 22. I'll tell you a little bit about their intent as Jacob Stockdale carries. Not quite the first touch he had against the Italians in Chicago. He made about 40 metres with the ball, but sets it up nicely, and there for Kieran Marmion once again. Sexton this time. Addison, first touch for Addison. And Peter O'Mahony, tackled by Santiago Medrano. Sexton again. Addison. You see him getting on that ball early as well. That'll settle any nerves that he might have had. Coming in for Robbie Henshaw as that late replacement. Boyne just protecting the ball there for Marmion. Thought of the box kick, but instead decided to feed Sexton. That's better. A little bit of space out here now. 1-on-1 from Stockdale. Tackled by Sanchez. Really good hit. Ryan. Desio just trying to get in over the ball to steal, but Ireland still have possession. Recycling the ball and happy to do it. Larmour did well to turn onto the right side. Pressure from Argentina. Whistle goes and they get the penalty, not releasing on the ground. First penalty goes to the visitors, Donald.
Yeah, it was an interesting start from Ireland. The minute they got possession in the 22, they looked up. The Argentine back three had sat back waiting for the kick. Ireland, no hesitation in terms of carrying it out of defence. A couple of big carries there from James Ryan, but unfortunately didn't release. And Nicolas Sanchez, who was the leading point scorer in the Rugby Championship, a good early chance. Not an easy kick by any manner of means. Must be 47 metres.
Yeah, he had 67 points in that Rugby Championship. He was also the top point scorer in the Rugby World Cup back in 2015, so he knows how to strike these. Top point scorer in Argentinian Test history. Kicking conditions absolutely ideal, I have to say. Compare it to yesterday, there is no comparison, and what a strike that is, and what a start from Argentina. One penalty inside the Irish half, and that is the result. 3 points to the board.
Yeah, we just see Jordan Larmour taking the ball into contact here, a judge not to have released. Good contest for the ball. You see Mateus Orlandi in over the ball. He was on his feet, and that's what Argentina are so good at. Experts at the breakdown. It doesn't matter what number is on your back, they will contest for possession.
Well, Guido Petty sums that up, right? I mean, he's a second row by trade. He's never played in the back row. If Mick Doyle had asked you to play in the back row when you were playing, what would you have told him?
Not a bother, I'd be flying around the place. But as you said, 42 caps in the second row, never played in the back row. They want to challenge that Ireland line-out.
They've got more than enough tools to do that. Again, ball there for Kubeli, and Argentina get a chance now to carry. Sanchez standing quite deep at the moment. Box kick by the scrum half. Kubeli puts it up, it's going to drop just over the halfway line, and the chase is good too. It's come back on the Argentinian side, and still possession for the visitors here at the Aviva. Whistle goes, penalty. Again, not releasing, this time against Argentina.
Yeah, but Nick Berry, as you said, his first Tier 1 test. Very hot on that contact area. Both teams now have been put on notice. Johnny Sexton, no hesitation, looking for field position, looking to drive this into the 22. Ireland's line-out, as we know, has been incredibly consistent, very good on the line-out maul. You just see it here, again, just failing to release.
Peter O'Mahony, what a season he's had done already.
Well, he's been brilliant in that aspect of the game all year.
Blue, step off.
On fire for Munster, Peter O'Mahony, and again winning the penalty there, rightly getting the plaudits from his teammates as Rory Best goes to the line-out for the first time. Henderson the target. No Devon Toner on the pitch, and Henderson did really well to get up there under a little bit of pressure as well.
Now you got to play it, play it off there, two, don't go again, break off.
At the back with Best, told to break off. Good instructions from the referee. And carried by CJ Stander. Makes a couple of metres too. Marmion looking for the feeds, and again it's Healy and Furlong presenting themselves as first carriers in Ireland Recycle. O'Mahony. Sexton, flat pass to Jordan Larmour. Let's see De La Fuente trying to hold him up, but Larmour's strength getting him to the ground. They're trying to suck in defenders here. Sexton, Furlong. Well, straight over Ortega Decio.
Release, Blue!
Ball squirts out, and again,
you're going down and come back up.
Illegal by Argentina. Nick Berry right on the spot, blows the whistle, and it's another penalty. Surely an opportunity for 3 points here.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Ireland don't go for points early, but what a carry by Tadhg Furlong.
Well, they're not going for it, they're going for the corner.
There's certainly big intent there. Well, I think they will have watched New Zealand against Argentina in Napier last September. The New Zealand line-out maul absolutely decimated Argentina. They obviously got a feel from that one just 2 minutes ago, and fairness to Sexton, put her into a good position.
Let's see where they go from here. Best this time goes to the back. Brilliant take by James Ryan. Advantage to Ireland. It's a shot to nothing here. They might as well have a go. O'Mahony transfers it back to Rory Best. Kieran Marmion spotted the advantage from the referee. It'll ship over the top from Sexton. It's an awkward one. Bounces nicely though, and it needed to. Taken by Mojano, and they go back for the penalty.
Well, very dangerous of Mojano to let the ball bounce in that position. But Ireland getting the reward, and you know, if they're going to carry through on the decision 2 minutes ago, you'd expect that Sexton,
come too late.
He should go to the corner again.
I wonder even might they consider a scrum here. I mean, it's an area that during the Rugby Championship Argentina really struggled with.
Yeah, they really have been into all kinds of trouble there. Their loose head Garcia Bota, he's back into the side. Again, a bit of a debate, just keeping the Argentine defenders honest. But Ireland obviously feel, from having watched the tapes of the Rugby Championship, Argentina's line-out maul defence hasn't been great. Opportunity here.
Rory Best has been flawless so far.
I'll give you a chance.
36 years of age, his 112th international cap, the Ulsterman. And options everywhere here. Henderson, Ryan, O'Mahony goes to Henderson at the front. Again, trying to transfer it quickly and get a shove on. It's exactly what they do, and it's Sanchez of all people who puts him down. Stander with the carry. Ireland going forward. CJ Stander pumping those legs, almost at the line. Stander, can he get it down? Waiting for the whistle to sound.
Yes! Up, boys, up. Time off.
I'm going to go to David Grassoff here, Donald. I think some of the Irish players think he did get it down.
Yeah, Sean O'Brien. Just listen.
Me either, so on-field decision's going to be no try. I'll have a check.
Yeah, Angus Gardner suggesting that he was being held up. The referee quite rightly gone upstairs to have a look. Sean O'Brien was pumping the air as if to say, Stander definitely got it down.
Mate, I haven't got a clear grounding, so my on-field decision will be no try.
You've Thomas Lavanini and Alamano are in underneath. Stander there, you can't see that, so you can't give it.
Can you?
No, you got to see the ball clearly grounded. If it's not clear and obvious, it won't be given. It looks as if Lavanini has just got in underneath Stander. Incredible leg drive from Stander, but you can't see the ball. If you can't see it, you can't give it. And that's inconclusive.
Nick?
Yep.
Please stay with your on-field decision. There's no clear and obvious grounding.
Okay, thank you. No clear grounding, we're going to go back for here.
Of course, the new directives for TMOs, Donald, it limits their powers somewhat, shall we say.
Well, it does. What they're trying to do is get the referees and his assistants on the field to take more responsibility for decision making. The TMO should be the fallback, but in that instance Nick Berry was right to go upstairs.
So first scrum then for Ireland, 5 metres out from the Argentinian line.
And it's a big opportunity. The last thing Argentina wanted scrummage wise was to have to defend a 5-metre scrum in the first scrum of the game.
Set! Hold!
Let's see what that front row of Healy, Best and Furlong can manage against Garcia, Bota, Cravey and Medrano. It is an area that I'm sure Joe Schmidt would have looked at, and look at the pressure that comes from Ireland. It's advantage already, and we kind of flag this. Kieran Marmion goes for it and gets over. Kieran Marmion takes advantage of the referee's advantage, and the Irish number 9 gets the first try of the game.
Well, this has been the concern for Argentina throughout the championship, which was flagged all week. They've had all kinds of trouble in the rugby championship, and Ireland sensed their moment. Just look at the square hit. Ireland in complete control right from the off. Good control at the back from CJ Stander. Just Argentina shearing off, and Kieran Marmion, what a start from him. But I know he'll thank his front five for that. But what an opportunity now. Ireland have paid to the picture in the scrum for the referee.
This was the gamble that Mario Ledesma took, Donald, that he only selected home-based players, which means that Herrera, Figallo, Chaparro couldn't come into the squad for this tour. They're all prop forwards with much more experience than the two that were selected tonight.
Yeah, certainly Herrera played in the championship. Figallo played in the first two. He's gone for home-based players, but on the evidence of the first scrum, you'd have to question that decision.
Could be a long night for that Argentina front row. Sexton looks to have this conversion. 714 points for Ireland. Didn't catch that one at all. It's gone well left and wide, so the flags stay down. We've played 10 minutes, we've had 2 scores, a penalty from Argentina and this try from Kieran Marmion.
Yeah, you just see CJ Stander in total control. When the ball just popped out, there was no defenders because the scrum had skewed to the left hand side. Kieran Marmion had a clean run in, but we've already seen the Ireland's line out maul and scrum dominant.
Well, what a take that was, straight out of the air, and Mojano setting the ball up nicely. Sexton forced to make the tackle. Argentina looking to hit back here almost straight away there for Kubeli. Options both sides now. Ireland do a reasonable job of slowing it down. Sanchez outside him to Petty.
Advantage, green 6.
And again, Omani, I think, was offside, so the advantage
green
coming.
6.
It's another very kickable penalty.
Yep.
Yeah, that's sloppy from Ireland, having just registered the 5 points, giving away 2 so easily. I'd like to see the restart again, because certainly Ramiro Mojano, we know how brilliant he is in broken play, and as a stepper, as a try scorer, as he did here last year, but competing in the air unopposed, that set up the field position. And another chance now for Sanchez.
Wide-footed strike, no problem, doesn't miss those from there, and Argentina take the lead once again. Let's have a look at the restart here.
Yeah, it was a great, good hang time. Just went over Ian Henderson, and Keith Earls caught in no man's land. Mojano does really well because he's only about 5'8", and just on the recycle, Peter O'Mahony, he was the one adjudged to have been offside.
Sexton goes straight down the middle. Again, beautiful high hanging ball. Allison was first to get there, and he managed to get a hand to it and knock it back. Should be Irish possession here. There for Marmion. Really good stuff by Allison. Really good kick from Jonathan Sexton as well. Switch with his outside centre. Allison getting over the gain line. Setting it up for Marmion. Cian Healy. Tackle low by Matera, Argentina captain. And for Sexton again. Was outside him for a long ball in behind. Lovely hands from Stockdale. Grubber kick from O'Mahony for his Munster teammate Earls to chase. Awkward one. Keith Earls back there. Oh, trying to use the foot there as he seems to stand up on the tackle, but
release Green!
His opponent in Argentina scrambled to get that ball. Delphi had to be cool there.
Back.
He was under pressure. The sidestep and he was away. Kubeli. Tight angle. And it's going to have a fine touch from there.
Yeah, Delguy did well, but Keith Earls, he did appear to stick a boot out. I'm not sure if the grubber kick was the right option from Peter O'Mahony. It wasn't a bad kick, but Delguy had so much time, and you just see there,
It's almost like an instinctive thing from Earls, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and he didn't make contact, and Delguy managing to clear his lines.
So line out to Ireland. Standing right on the right shoulder of Jonathan Sexton, but it's the first one that doesn't go to plan, and Matera, the Argentina captain, takes it away. Tackled by Sean O'Brien. Kubeli back to his fly half. Sanchez launches the Gary Owen. It's going to drop short of the halfway line. The tackle from Sean O'Brien was high, so advantage be played to Argentina.
With a high tackle back here.
It's there for Delgi. Back with Kubeli. Take from Lavanini. Over the halfway line. Sanchez. Lovely quick hands, and then just knocked on.
Boys, come back.
By Medrano. We're going to go back for the penalty. The referee playing a long advantage there to Argentina for that high tackle from Sean O'Brien.
Yeah. And again, it was the TMO, just a little word in the referee's ear. And, that's 2 penalties for Ireland given away now. Only 14 minutes gone. Just a little bit loose from Ireland.
Former player Nick Berry, the referee, played with the Queensland Reds. He played with Wasps and Racing in Europe as well. So, I mean, he had to retire early because of a concussion, a repeated concussion problem. But that playing background seemed to see him elevated quite quickly. When we see it again, that was deemed to be high.
Yeah, well, Sean O'Brien, his hand is around the neck of the ball carrier, and you know, we've seen so much focus on those high tackles. Just have to be careful.
Decent take. Paddy Sanchez, ball off the top end. De La Fuente, ball in behind. Lovely stuff from his fly half on the wraparound, but equally good tackle from Stockdale. Taken up by Petty. Boffelli standing at first receiver.
Tackle now,
Tackle by Henderson, really good hit. Forcing Argentina back to that halfway line. Sanchez with a pass again. De La Fuente carrying. Turn from Cravey to Medrano. Kubeli, left hand side to Ortega Desio. Boffelli once more. Earls
release
and Marmion to put him down, and Earls trying to get over the ball. Wrestling trying to poach and then told to leave it. Ireland contesting at the breakdown. Again, the high ball from Sanchez, not his best strike. Stockdale underneath it, went forward off him though, and it's a knock-on advantage to Argentina.
No advantage, boys. Knock on green here.
Yeah, a bit of a stalemate there, really. Argentina with some big carries. They have introduced a bit more subtlety in that they do look to offload now just before contact. The high Gary Owen from Nicolas Sanchez. Stockdale does really well to get up in the air ahead of the Argentine players, but just couldn't grasp it in that breadbasket.
Strange decision by Sanchez to kick. We know that Stockdale has a considerable height advantage against Bautista Delgui. They played each other before at under 20 level, and Stockdale scored 2 tries in that World Championship semi-final.
Yeah, but I think there's an element to the way Argentina had been playing to bringing Super Rugby into international rugby, just running it left, right, and they're trying to bring more of a kicking game into play. Just wasn't executed well on that occasion there.
Again, Ireland trying to put pressure in the front row better though from Argentina. They locked that one out. Sanchez, De La Fuente to Orlando. Orlando bursting through the first tackle. Orlando still going the pass back inside. De La Fuente, beautiful hands inside the 22. Delgi goes down 5 metres from the line. Quick ball needed for Argentina. Aki trying to make the tackle on Lavanini. Still there for Kubeli. Sanchez with a little dummy trying to go on his own. Sanchez held short. Kubeli, pop pass to Cravey. And the hooker, 2 metres from the line. Dangerous from Argentina. Ireland need to make the tackles here. Sanchez on the outside to Desio. Desio on the outside to Delgui. And the 21-year-old touches down in the corner. Brilliant Argentina try.
What a try that was, and that is what they're capable of. The traditional strengths maybe coming under pressure up front, but their game behind the scrum has expanded to a huge amount, and Batista, Delgui, so dangerous on the wing, but it all came from a dummy wraparound play, which Orlando got straight through the middle, offloaded immediately, kept play going. Delgui involved there again. Very good ball placement from him, quick recycle. Sanchez getting through the first line of defence, and it's all about the pace of the recycle. They have the overlap out wide. It was only a matter of putting it through the hands, and in the end, Delgui in unopposed, superb rugby.
Brilliant to watch. The break from Orlando, slicing through the Irish midfield, and Delgui involved twice in that build-up as well. Held short first time. Second time he got his hands on that ball, he went in the corner, as I say, completely unopposed. And that's what Argentina, we were talking about this in the build-up to the game, how they have developed from a forward-based power game to brilliance in the back line. And when you have a back three of Buffelli, Mojano and Delgui, that's what they can do. Difficult conversion from the corner. This one is going to go to the right and wide, so the flags will stay down. The gap, 6 points. Argentina stretch their lead.
Yeah, and all about taking your opportunities. Just simple, take a pass, give a pass, and feed the player who's in space. But you know, I thought it was ridiculous this morning reading the papers. It said the spread on the game was 18 points. That was really generous from Argentina's point of view, and we know they can play rugby, and the conditions as they've improved as the day has gone on, just saw what they're capable of.
Well, the record books will say 2 victories in the Rugby Championship. It should have been 3 when they lost that formidable lead at half-time against Australia. Just completely switched off in the second half when Nicolas Sanchez, their fly half, went off. That seemed to contribute to an awful lot of defensive errors and inability to manage the game more than anything else. As Jordan Larmour takes the high ball.
Rock! Out now, 2!
No question that Mario Ledesma has improved this team, and Ireland trying to get back on with possession in hand here. Bundyaki switching off that right foot, look for the offload, and thought better of it. Still there for James Ryan, and he carries with Furlong on his shoulder. Good clear out ball in behind from Henderson, lovely hands from Henderson, and then Jordan Larmour. Haven't seen too much of him in any kind of room, but look at that, dancing his way through to make 4 metres with the ball in hand. Marmion once again to best this time in behind a Sexton. There's loads of room on the right hand side. Aki. Flat ball to Ryan. Did well to hang on to it. Tackle from Guido Petti. And then turnover ball. Here's Lavanini. Ireland not protecting it. Argentina all too happy to rip it away.
Out green!
Kubeli trying to keep it tight. Plus Cravey in there, the hooker. Leaves the first scrum half. Box kick from him. Stockdale coming for this one. Has support from Keith Earls and Sean O'Brien. Bit of room on this left hand side now. If he can get away, Jacob Stockdale. Earls in to try and support it. Jordan Larmour completely unmarked outside him, but wins the penalty. Argentina going off their feet.
That's great pace from Jacob Stockdale, and deciding to back himself. Pablo Matera, Argentina's captain, for the first time. You just see Stockdale there, saw a bit of space on the outside, backed himself, looking to link up, but the support not quick enough, and Pablo Matera not supporting his body weight. Ireland once again making the decision to put the ball into the corner. Bit of a committee meeting going on now in the middle of the field. Johnny Sexton talking to Rory Best. Are we going to drive or are we going to run?
Let's see what they do here. A lot of discussion about it. As you say, Johnny Sexton right in the middle of the forwards huddle there, talking to his captain, and here's Rory Best to throw. Really good position for Ireland. Henderson takes it. Vanishing play. So again, it's a shot to nothing. And again, might as well have a go here. Marmion looking for instructions from his fly half. Here's Sexton, crossfield kick. It's meant for Keith Earls. It's going to be just too far ahead of him. We'll go back for the penalty.
Yeah, Argentina, they're obviously worried about the power of the Ireland lineup. Maul.
Time's off.
Just listen here now.
That's two infringements now at maul time. That one's for tackled in the air. The other one was a late sack from 5 over there. So it's 4 here, 5 over there. 2 infringements. Discipline's got to improve, or someone will go. Okay, great. Have a word to him.
Yeah, and
it's in the air, boys.
the referee, it's Alemano and Thomas Lavanini. They're so worried about that Ireland maul. They're trying to stop it at source, but you can't interfere with the player until he comes back to ground. And if you just see it here, Ian Henderson in the air. Alemano has his hands on him there.
Well, the fact that Nick Berry spoke to Pablo Matera means the next time they try that, it's going to be someone in the bin.
Which puts them under severe pressure from this point now, because do they compete in the air or on the ground? They certainly can't afford to give away a penalty, because if they do, it's yellow card time.
Make sure you can.
Ireland 1 try on the board already. Going to see a Marmion. What are they going to do here? They drop the ball. What a time to do that. Too many mistakes from Ireland.
Yeah, they look a bit rusty in certain areas. You know, that was obviously a pre-planned move. They look to shift the point of the drive. You just see Ian Henderson almost unopposed, puts the ball back to James Ryan. Pre-planned move, but Ryan just unable to hold the pass. And they're the simple things. We saw it in New Zealand and England as well. When you get those opportunities, you have to execute.
Crouch! Bind! Set!
Last Argentina's scrum was a lot better. Let's see if Ireland can put the pressure on here. They're driving forward. Absolutely making mincemeat of the Argentina scrum. Advantage, and Standard picks and goes. Ball down 5 metres short. O'Brien leaves it for Marmion. Cian Healy, still advantage being played. And Marmion knows it. Sean O'Brien this time. Well tackled. Couldn't get the legs going at all. James Ryan, he does, and is almost at the line. Really good carry by the second row. Marmion once more, looking for Furlong.
Okay.
Ball there for Sean O'Brien. Desperate Argentina defence. Can Ireland capitalise here? Sexton, quick hands to Bundyaki. Bundyaki swallowed the tackle by Lavanini. Really good hit by the second row. Swallowed him up. Still advantage being played. Cian Healy's going to have a go. And he's dragged down by Matera. Marmion to Stander. Argentina flying off the line.
Yeah, he's still got advantage.
Still advantage being played. Opportunity for Bundyaki. The patience pays off.
Well, it was coming, wasn't it? Argentina had already conceded 2 penalties in that movement.
We had 2 for offside, 1 for not rolling, and 1 against the tight head.
There's the referee talking to Pablo Matera again. 3 different penalties in that movement. Argentine scrum is under all kinds of trouble. They're offside. But Bundyaki, a brilliant tackle from Thomas Lavanini. But Aki, he just has the power, stays alive, gets back on his feet, and from that distance from the line, you're never going to stop him.
This one's for general infringement.
Great carry, CJ Stander there.
Thank you.
Bundyaki, couple of black eyes as well for his efforts last weekend, and obviously none the worse for wear for them. And Ireland now within a point, this to take the lead. And we get 12 points to 11, 25 minutes gone on the clock. Plenty of talking points so far in the game, but errors as well from both sides. See if Sexton can knock this one over. Perfect kicking conditions here. Much better strike from Johnny Sexton. Ireland have the lead.
Again, you just see it here. Bundyaki had been involved in the move 2 or 3 occasions. The gap opened up. Argentina's defence had really scrambled well up to that point, but the minute he saw the space, he was in to score. Important knew that Ireland came back so quickly, having conceded that Argentine try.
Again, pinpoint accuracy from the restart as well. Ball's gone loose and it's come back on the Argentina side, but was it knocked on?
Knock on first of all.
It was. Argentina get the scrum, Ireland knock it on. The restarts, Ireland have made a couple of errors now from this exact kick down.
Yeah, but it's just the accuracy of Sanchez's kick. Ian Henderson is just standing a little bit too flat. You need to run into the kick-off.
To the left.
And Keith Earls then is kind of caught behind him.
Keep that space before the set. Keep that space before the set.
You can see Henderson frustrated there. He's just misreading that.
Totally.
The ball's going to drop.
Yeah, but Ireland have been able to put big pressure on that Argentine scrum, more so even when it's there put in. They'll chase it again here.
Hooker must strike the ball. It allows Ireland to get that shove, so if the Argentinian front row aren't locked out, it makes life very difficult there for Kubeli. Tackled by Henderson. Argentina just about recycling it. Pick and go now. And keeping it tight. Ortega Decio leaves it. He's got his hands on that ball. And taking on this time by Medrano.
Release now!
Trying to hit prop. Another big hit to stop him in his tracks. Henderson making a right nuisance of himself there. Vanini trying to get every inch on the ground. Garcia booked that, looking for instructions, and he has a go. Kubeli just talking to Sanchez just outside your picture, standing pretty deep, but the rest of the back line very flat. What's he going to do here? Well, that's why he's launching the Gary O now. Larmer's underneath it, has to call for it. Buffelli, it's gone loose and it's come back into Irish hands. Addison in the right place at the right time. But that was dangerous, and you can see why. Argentinian backline very flat. Launched the Gary O. And Ireland just scrambling here, need to get this one away. Standing offside there. Interfering in play, but Kieran Marmion swings the boot and gets it into touch.
Yeah, Ireland at sea under that high ball. I mean, it was meant pre-planned call for Emiliano Buffelli, all 6'3" of them. He's brilliant in the air, but just Larmer didn't get up early enough. You've got to be more decisive than that. Ball bounced. Once you leave a ball bounce, it can go anywhere. It was only good fortune that it bounced into the hands of Will Addison. Ireland need to be more commanding in the air.
Gus Cravey, 81st cap for the 33-year-olds for Argentina. Hits his man. Matera takes it at the back, and it's with the Argentine captain now. That's right. Joining at the back. And Ireland doing a pretty good job of containing that maul so far. One of the Pumas got when they've lost the ball. That's really good defence from the Irish pack.
Yeah, fantastic work. James Ryan again, he's the one getting the pats on the back. He's
taken in by Blue.
He's worked really hard in this opening 30 minutes. A great contest going on between himself, Thomas Lavanini on the other side. Massive work rate from Argentina. You just see there's a good setup initially from Argentina, trying to get it to the back of the ball. Now James Ryan manages to swim up through the middle. You see the number 5 jersey there. He manages to get himself in a good position, get his hands on the ball, and once you stay there, he's entitled to be there because he worked his way in there from the start. He was the one who held it up. Super work, James Ryan.
Same mark, guys. Here it is.
Well, you go 52 tackles made by Argentina, 9 missed though. And the pack down here on the scrum. Marmion with the feed. Among those Timo directions as well, we hear the referees are going to punish crooked feeds at the scrum. Something that seems to have slipped back a little bit over the last few months or so after kind of an early emphasis on them, if you like. Scrum has come up. I think we're going to reset here.
That was it.
Yeah, one of the anomalies of
modern
day scrum decisions. When the front rows go up, you have to reset. Now, a lot of the time, it's the scrum who's under pressure. They deliberately come up so they can get an opportunity to go back and reset and start again. At least up to this point, Ireland have painted a clear picture for the referee. They're clearly the stronger scrum.
Watch that side for me, please.
Once it goes up, to be fair to the referee, he's no option but to have a reset.
Crouch! Burn! Set!
There you can see Best with the strike. Nothing wrong with the feed there. And again, a really good scrum by Ireland. Edging their way forwards and looking for the penalty to try and clear. They get the penalty. That's really good work by the Irish pack.
Yeah, just patient work really from Ireland. Really strong on the hit, really solid, quite happy to hold the drive, come back.
Coming round.
And Argentina were accused of bringing the scrum around on the loose head side. Santiago Garcia Bota has been brought back into the team. Played one match in the Rugby Championship against New Zealand in Napier, and Owen Franks absolutely tore him to shreds.
5 of his last 6 caps have come from the bench as well, so he's not used to starting games.
So just see here, when the pressure comes on, the referee is accusing him of going on the outside of Pike Furlong, just trying to pull that scrum around. That's why Sean O'Brien, he knows Pike Furlong getting the plaudits.
Getting an old shovel hand to the face there.
Yeah.
Well able for Pike Furlong. And look at the distance that Johnny Sexton has made with that penalty. They've got to win the line out, though. It's another unforced error, and it went forward off an Irish hand. So that'll be hugely frustrating for Joe Schmidt. Ireland put themselves in a decent position with possession in the line out, and they give it straight back to Argentina.
Yeah, well, that's the second one now that they've lost. They went for the ambitious throw to the tail. James Ryan was standing almost on the 15-metre line. You just see the distance there. Ball. And that was, it's Guido Petti with 7 on his back, but he's a second row by trade. That is one of the reasons they brought him into the side. They're really fearful of the power and the variety of the Irish line out. That was one of the reasons why he was picked.
Crouch!
I'm sure Cabelli getting instructions, get this one out as quickly as possible. Don't give Ireland the platform to try and win another penalty. They've been so dominant in the scrum. Creevy gets it to the back, and sure enough, Cabelli gets rid of that ball as quickly as possible. De La Fuente, lovely line again, straight through the middle from Buffelli. It was Orlando the last time it broke through. Buffelli, though, not quite getting away. Cabelli.
Light tackle on 10.
Tackle by James Ryan, really good hit on Petty there. I'll tell you what a tackle from James Ryan.
That's superb from Ryan, and he's played the ball on the deck.
Not from you, late hit on 10.
Well, it's not Ryan.
Number?
It was on Sanchez from one of the Irish players.
Late tackle on 10.
It was CJ Stander, I think.
Yeah, but it's the second time, Hugh, that the Irish defence has been broken by just a short pop coming back against the grain.
Aki wasn't hit him. Come on, yeah.
You'll see it.
Yeah, just
Rory.
again a misread in midfield, that short pop.
So we had 6 green
coming back
hit
in.
a bloke earlier on suspicion, and now 12 green hit him a little bit late. Okay. Yeah, hit 10 late. Okay.
So referee just pointing out Peter Manny put in a bit of a late hit, and then Bundyaki did the same. And just to be mindful of that, go back and talk to his players. But Sanchez, this well within his range. His first penalty was almost this exact distance, but the other side of the pitch should favour this side for the right-footed kicker. Beautiful, clean strike again. Absolutely brilliant kick by Nicolas Sanchez.
Well, it's amazing. Just watch. Well, this is the late hit there. It's Bundyaki. It's high as well.
Penalty for Argentina.
Definite penalty. Well, it wasn't really high. Just adjudged to be late.
So 3 points conceded for Ireland. A lot of unforced errors in this first half of the Irish team.
There is. They just don't seem to have got into their mojo. And the previous November internationals, Ireland, that's one thing they're very good at, getting up to the tempo of international rugby. But we have to bear in mind, Hugh, all of this Argentina team, they're all from Jaguares, the whole 15 of them. They've played 16 games in Super Rugby, 6 games in the Rugby Championship. So they really are a very familiar unit.
Interesting to listen to Gus Pichot speak about the different dynamic versus when he was playing, when a lot of the Argentina players maybe 10-12 years ago were based around Europe with different clubs. So when they came together, there was a real band of brothers effect, and they don't have that same effect now. But that's not to say that it's any worse. It's just different atmosphere because the players know each other inside out. That has its own advantages as well.
Yeah, it has, but sometimes you can have too much familiarity.
Cian Healy carry. Lavanini trying to wrap him up. Little offload to Rory Best, who gets a thumping hit for his troubles, and there for Sexton now. Flat ball to Sean O'Brien. Larmer just on the halfway line.
Off, Blue, off!
Marmion to Healy. There's a bit of help from CJ Stander. Hits the ground. Argentina defenders up really, really quickly. Here's Bundyaki, room on that right-hand side now. With Best let this one go. Here's Will Allison trying to break the tackle, but Matthias Orlando had him pretty well marshalled. Ryan. Tackled by Lavanini. Sexton. Switch with Sean O'Brien. Marmion. Back to Sexton. Again delaying that to Cian Healy, looking for the offload. Probably shouldn't have given that ball. And the opportunity now for Delguy. Argentina options both sides now. Over by Decio. And this is Lavanini. Cian Healy just didn't need to give that pass. And again, something that Joe Schmidt will be incredibly frustrated by. Kubeli. Back to Sanchez again. Akibun has to make the tackle on Matera, who's back on his feet. Matera! Was he held? He was. That's why he couldn't get back on his feet. Referee's whistle's gone.
He needs to put the ball down and get back to his feet.
Yeah, the tackle player, you have to release the ball. You are entitled then to pick it up and go again. He obviously didn't do that. But the power of this man is unbelievable. 55 caps, 25 years of age. He's a bull on the ball. No, this is the one Cian Healy was better advised maybe to hold on to it. Delguy on the way back. Just keeping it alive. But, clearly you can see Pablo Matera was tackled, didn't release.
What are we doing?
But what power, upper body strength. It's Sean O'Brien.
Sean O'Brien, of course, has had so much problems with injury. I mean, this is his 14th game for club or country since the Lions tour finished in New Zealand, Donald. 14 games in 16 months.
Yeah, it's incredible. He hasn't played an international since this equivalent match last year, and it looks Dan Levy already warmed up, ready
like
to come in.
Injury,
yeah, that is a disaster for Sean O'Brien.
Oh, I can't check it now. I didn't see it.
Bear in mind, Dan Levy was playing against the Southern Kings in Port Elizabeth last Sunday, so he didn't train with Ireland till Wednesday. He's had that long journey, and he finds himself on the field a lot quicker than he would have thought. But massive sympathy for Sean O'Brien. He's had so many injuries over the years.
It's heartbreaking for him.
It is. He missed out on the Grand Slam, missed out on Leinster's Champions Cup win, and of course that series win in Australia. You can just see it in his face, and I feel for the guy.
Okay, so depending on how that penalty is, if there is one.
Well, hopefully it's not too serious. He's in a lot of pain, obviously, and can't continue. But Jonathan Sexton, as you can see, is going to have a shot at goal here with 90 seconds left on the clock. Bumping strike as well. Does he have the distance? Just about for Johnny Sexton. And 3 points on the board for Ireland.
This is where Sean O'Brien got injured. Lavanini goes very low, and it's just, you know, it's one of those contact injuries. You're going to get him in rugby. Nothing wrong with the tackle, nothing wrong with the carry, just the collision. Bit innocuous really, but at a high cost for Sean O'Brien.
So Dan Levy in, and Johnny Sexton's penalty puts Ireland 1 point ahead inside the last minute of the first half. Much better from Keith Earls dealing with the restart. Offloads to CJ Stander. And there from Marmion.
Release, tacklers, release!
Healy carries Rory Best this time. And straight into Matthias Alemano. No need to rush this one, but steadying himself for that box kick. Kieran Marmion is going to find touch. And it'll be an Argentina line out. Last play of the first half.
Yeah, and Argentina, they just managed to stifle Ireland. The line speed, as you have mentioned, Hugh, they're coming up very quickly. They're putting in the tackles. We know Ireland like to play a multi-phase game, but if you're stopped on the gain line, it has a massive effect, and that's exactly what has happened in the opening half. Ireland are going to have to find a way to manage that better.
Ortega Desio wins the line out. Ball called by the referee. And in comes Lavanini to help out. Joined as well by Santiago Medrano.
Stay bound! Stay bound, 3! Stay bound!
Some change out of the maul here. Tyke Furlan told to stay bound. James Ryan told to keep his hands away
sideways.
and regroup. Kubeli. Right off his wing. Mojano, I should say, to take it towards the 22. Kubeli back in the pocket of Sanchez. It's a drop goal here.
That's half, boys.
It was a shot to nothing, really. There's the half-time whistle. Sanchez, well, 3 penalties for him in that first half. A try for Delgey, Ireland, with a try from Kieran Morian and Bundyaki, and then a penalty from Jonathan Sexton. Plenty of errors on both teams, and the coaches get a chance to have a word with Peter O'Mahony. Looks like he picked up a bit of a knock, but it's half-time here at the Aviva Stadium. Ireland lead Argentina by 15 points to 14. We'll have analysis after the break.
Well, I guess it's an interesting test match for a neutral, as in you couldn't really call a winner at this stage. 15-14 Ireland, but certainly less a precision Schmidt-built instrument than a wonky grandfather clock. And that first half, pretty unimpressive, you'd have to say. It was a bad 40 minutes in general for Ireland. I mean, Sean O'Brien kind of put the icing on it.
Yeah, it was a bad 40 minutes. A lot of sloppy play by Ireland, but they're still ahead in the scoreboard. They've managed somehow to go in at half-time.
Thanks to the scrum, I guess.
Yeah, thanks to the scrum, but it's very unlike Ireland. Straight from the kick-off, they try to run it out and then they turn the ball over. I think it's Creevy gets on the ball here. A lovely turnover. Sanchez slots that over to go 3-0 up. And then it just seems to be error after error, and they just can't get any flow or momentum into their game.
Yeah, we can just look at this as kind of wallpaper, really, rather than being specific about it.
The line-out is a problem, you know, and this is the fact that they have a very big line-out and we don't have Devin Toner. So we're under a lot of pressure there, and it's starting to pay off for the Argentinians. We've dominated their scrum, they've kind of dominated our line-out. And for that reason, the scrum is keeping us in the game, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think Joe will be very upset about the first half. There's just no continuity at all. Every time they're trying to get, look, there's a situation, but it would have been easier to build the phases, hold on to the ball. They're trying to play a game, a loose game, before they're getting the basics right. And if we look at the basics, line-out throwing, yes, their scrum is strong, but their basic ball maintenance has been poor. So they look to tighten up the game. Really, it's just come down to a match of the scrums at the moment. Argentina don't have one. Ireland have a great one. So,
but can we put our finger on anything? I mean, it is imprecision, but was there any chance that any sense that we were kind of chest beating about our own brilliance a little bit too much, and it's coming back to bite us?
Well, it's hard to put your finger on it because we're normally not sloppy with the ball. Normally our basics are very good.
Look at the restarts, for instance.
Well, restarts, we lost a couple of restarts. The line-out's been sloppy. We've turned over ball. Probably the thing that struck with me is the first turnovers cost us 3 points. Playing out of our own half is not what we do. And it wasn't that, it's no harm to play over and back a couple of times, but after that you've got to decide to kick it into the backfield. We kept playing until we turned it over. It's very untypical of Ireland, the way they're playing at the moment. And you just think at the moment, if they could just tidy their game up, find some field position, they'll finish the game out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're not crying for the fire brigade just yet, but let's take a look at the tries. We did have 3, and Kieran Marmion, and we were talking about him before the match having to lay down a marker. He took his chance well.
Yeah, but again, you know, like it was either going to be this or a penalty try because they were marching towards the line. I'd say Marmion picked up well. But again, you know, when you're on a retreat like that, for the Argentine loose forwards, there's nothing they can do. They try to put their foot in to stop it. But it was going to be a penalty try, I suggest, anyway. So, but I mean, he took it well enough. But I mean, the scrum has been so dominant by Ireland, which is unusual against Argentina. But we know the problems that they have.
Sure, we got 2 scrappy tries.
You know, that's a great pickup there. When the boot comes flying in by the Argentinian back row, it's a great pickup. A lot of pressure on the young man's shoulders.
Yeah.
He takes the try and
could
he
have
gets
messed it up.
back into the game.
Yeah, for sure. And as we said, I mean, it is a tight. It is a test match, whether or not it's beautiful to watch. What about the Delgey try? I mean, this came from Orlando's line break.
Nothing special. It was just 10-12. Orlando hits an unders line. He gets between Johnny Sexton and Bundyaki. And after a line break like this, it's very hard to recover. So players are going to track straight back, probably condense around the breakdown. You find here is that you have 2 front rows out wide. it's just a question of building pressure.
You can see Cian Healy screaming for guys to get to the far side.
So we have 2 front rows, and it's a walk-in.
And this walk-in is exactly what we witnessed in the World Cup in 2015, when we seen a lot of the front row out in the wide channels getting beaten into the corners.
We had so many players stacked on the blind side then, and players were screaming to get across, and they were making no effort even to come across the other side. They're always going to be outnumbered on that side. So lack of communication.
But that's borderline systems error to use that.
I think it's to be fair here that
that's good attack.
It was a huge line break. It's very hard to recover from a big line break like that, and everyone's scrambling, and you don't get time to reset the line with the quicker guys to the outside. So
but start your investigation in midfield.
Players to put themselves in a position to do something in a game, and when you're out on the blind side and you know the player's going to the open side, you know there's no giving.
But they didn't recover well, but you know you have two front rows out wide. You know there's nothing good's going to happen.
It's not their fault.
No.
Okay. Bundyaki, he got his bit, squirted out again. It was kind of. It was.
They don't need to practice this during the week, you know. This is not standard play, but again, the scrum was dominant. They had the penalty. They took it up, and you know, if Ireland just hold on to the ball, you believe they're going to score if they're patient. But their patience let them down. And again, here it's a sloppy ruck actually. Eventually, that works in their favour. Big hit here. And ball squirts out, which shouldn't. Marmion gets hit, and that opens the hole for Aki to run through.
Sure.
Like, if that ball didn't squirt out, that defender wouldn't have made that tackle. And that hole isn't there. So it kind of worked in our favour.
Yeah, if there's been one player in the first half that's really stood out for Ireland, who's done the simple things well, retained possession, it's been CJ Stander. He nearly got over in the corner for a try. And that's what Ireland need more of. They need all the players to be on the same wavelength as him. Because if they retain possession and go through phases, the scores will come. They just need to be patient.
He rarely
has a poor Argentina game. At the moment. It suits Argentina that we're sloppy with the ball. They'll thrive on that sort of stuff. We do need to sort the line-up though. We've gone, the only line-up ball of any quality we've won has been at the front, the flat 2. Every time we try and go down the line, we're in trouble, and that's I can see Devin Turner sooner or later.
Plenty to sort out, in other words. We'll have a quick preview of the second half when you join us in just a few moments.
RTE Sport are giving you the chance to see Ireland take on New Zealand at the Aviva Stadium next Saturday, as Ireland seek a first home win against the current world champions. This great prize for you and a friend includes a 4-star overnight stay in Dublin, those all-important match tickets, plus €500 spending money. For your chance to win, answer this question. In which US city did Ireland defeat New Zealand in 2016? Was it San Diego, Chicago, or Dallas? To enter, call 15 17 71 71 82 or text the word rugby followed by your answer and name to 57001. Calls from the Air network will cost €2.03. Calls from other networks may be higher. You must be over 18 to enter. Lines will close at midday on Tuesday, November 13th. Full details are on rte.ie/competitions, where the lucky winner will also be revealed.
Quick switch tomorrow night. Something a little different from down under. Galway and Kilkenny. Yes, that's hurling. It's the Wild Geese Trophy, and that's at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock also, but on Monday we'll be previewing the visit of New Zealand. That's against the Head. You can join us for that, and we're live with the match here, of course, on RTE2 next Saturday. Our coverage starts at 8 p.m. The question is, are New Zealand worried after watching that first half? And we all know the answer to that. Probably the real question is, are Argentina worried, and can they come out and do a number on us here? They have a few things to fix, but they're as likely to fix them as we are.
Well, the big fix for them is obviously the scrum. They sort out the scrum that takes away the advantage we've had. They've probably played the better phase rugby in the half, but neither team have played that well. Ireland unusually have not gone through any number of phases. We've seen Ireland put 15, 20 phases together. There's been none of that tonight. And I think it's the scrappiness of the affair, the turnovers, that's breaking the game up. And that suits Argentina at the moment. And we need to sort the line out as well.
Let's try and spin this somewhat positively in a way. I mean, we're always on about Ireland being situationally aware, able to solve problems on the fly. Here's a new test. Go and solve it, will they?
Absolutely. Well, of course they can solve it. I mean, they're not unsolvable problems. You get your line out right. The scrum is good. As I say, it's just a bit about building phase. I think, Stephen mentioned before, I just think a bit more patience. I think they're trying to offload. They're trying to play a game that's just not suiting them. Now, that could have something to do with the fact that the players haven't played together, as a unit. I'd have to say it looks like Sean O'Brien's Richard Luck is continuing now. That looks like an arm break. That could signal a long break for him. But yes, they're fixable. They just have to build more continuity.
Can you see this as a test? 40 minutes, go and solve this.
It's a test. They haven't been good in the first half, but if they put things right in the second half, that first half will be quickly forgotten about. And they run in a few tries, maintain possession, get their big ball carriage into the game. We haven't seen Tadhg Furlong bursting through people. You know, Peter O'Mahony getting across the gain line. We haven't seen any of it.
Okay.
So that's what we want to see in the second half.
It certainly is, and hopefully we'll be back reviewing that. But time will tell. 40 minutes to go. Back to you, Donal and Hugh.
Yeah, thanks, Dara. The thing about it is, Donal, I mean, you saw New Zealand as well really capitulate in that first half against England. It was as bad a 40 minutes as I've seen from New Zealand in a long time. They still managed to grind out the win. Ireland, despite making a lot of mistakes in that first half, are still a point ahead here.
Yeah, and they have the capacity to turn things around. They normally start the first 10 minutes of the second half really well. Now, I'm quite sure Joe Schmidt will have pointed out all the things the lads spoke about in the studio, but it's vital that Ireland get this opening 10 minutes right.
The last 5 meetings between these teams, the lowest points total between them was 40 points. Generally, it's a very high-scoring game when these two meet. We've had 29 in that first half, including 3 tries, 1 from Argentina, 2 from Ireland. And Sean O'Brien, who had to go off with what looks like a pretty bad arm injury. We'll obviously wait for an update on that. We would hope that
Out 5.
It's not too serious, but again, just have to wait and see as Kubeli steadies himself for the box kick. He's going to drop this one just short of the halfway line. Again, the chase was pretty good. Earls left it for Marmion. And Cian Healy, what's his pass like? Pretty good. To Levy. Tackled by Garcia Bota. Back to Johnny Sexton. Crossfield kick, but it didn't look like Peter O'Mahony was standing on the wing. Didn't look like he was expecting that at all. And Shervoy Woody as Buffelli gets over the halfway line. Kubeli to Sanchez. Flat pass again, taken up by Alemano. Good carry. Still there for Argentina. Sanchez once more. That's lovely hands from Santiago Medrano. And again, they get in over the gain line and keep the legs pumping forward. Henderson doing his best to try and slow them down. Referee calls more. It's gone to ground, and Rory Best told to leave it. Sanchez again to Matera. Pass to Buffelli again. It's advantage to Argentina. It's a penalty advantage as well.
Player on the ground. He's got to get to his feet if he wants to make the tackle.
Clear instructions from the referee.
Yeah, I'm not sure who he was talking to, but
I think Dan Levy, was it?
Yeah, again, it's that unders line. That's the player coming back in against the grain. That's creating the problem for Ireland defensively.
The man's on the ground when he's made the tackle, okay? If he wants to make the tackle, he has to get to his feet to make that tackle, okay?
Everyone else is good?
Well, we're only 30 seconds into it. Yeah.
So far, so good. This is what the penalty was for. It was the first hit from Levy on Montero.
Yeah, I think basically it was the trailing leg from Dan Levy. The tackle is okay on Matera, but didn't
seem to know much about it, did he?
He didn't, to be fair. His back was to it. I mean, there's no way he could have got up on the ground quicker than that.
That's why the confused look on the face of Dan Levy, but Sanchez 3 from 4 to put Argentina back in front. Beautiful relaxed style, and again flags go up. Brilliant kick by the Argentinian number 10.
Yeah, and he has this languid style, but again just see the line coming back in. It's Alemano creating the difficulty there. He's held up eventually, but he does manage to get it the offload away, and again that's the prop forward. You just see him there, Medrano offloading in contact. That's where their game has just come on in leaps and bounds through that regular contact with Super Rugby.
7th game in charge for Mario Ledesma. Succeeded Daniel Hurcada, 84 caps himself for Argentina, and an awful lot of positivity about what he's trying to do as the captain Pablo Matera takes the contact, almost got away. Here's Cravey, the former captain and former back row forward. That's where he started his professional career. And assigned by Biarritz, he was playing in the back row. Come back to Argentina, advised to change positions, and the rest is history. Jordan Armour again couldn't hold that ball. It's bread and butter stuff now for Ireland that's just not been done, and it's giving possession back to Argentina. Delgy trying to go on the outside.
Defenders from the knock on over.
Manage over, says the referee. Ty Furlan tries to rip it clear. There for Kubeli. Sanchez gets the offload away. Alemano, did he hang on to that? He did really well.
Off green!
Second row to hold that ball. Cravey. Little pop pass again to Medrano. Argentina comfortable on the ball. Petty. Kubeli. In for Sanchez, I think, but it was Buffelli who took it. Again, Matera dies with the ball. This fly half. And Teddy under pressure from CJ Stander. Good tackle from Stander. Ireland in over that ball and have a hand on it as well. Dan Levy who has ripped that clear. Brilliant stuff by Dan Levy. Sexton goes for the corner. Keith Earls is after this one. Where's it going to bounce? Just over the line. Should be comfortable enough for Sanchez to deal with it. It's going to be a 22-minute drop.
Johnny Sexton's kicking round there. It's just out a little bit. That's two kicks that have been too deep. But Dan Levy does brilliantly here. You see Guido Petty. Levy's on his feet there. Gets his hands on the ball. That's brilliant from Dan Levy. Just a kick from Sexton, just that little bit too deep. Never really threatened. But I tell you, the Ireland's back three normally so good on the high ball. They've been all over the place this evening, and you know, that's where Rob Kearney, a lot of the time, he does the basics so well, we take it for granted.
And that's it.
Nah, you're off it, Blue.
There from Marmy. Stander. A bit of a wrestle with Santiago Medrano. Stander presents it for a scrum half. Sexton. Healy back inside to Addison. Ireland running different lines here now to Stockdale. Stockdale gets to the 10. Healy again. A step off his right and into contact. Johnny Sexton back inside to outside to Buddy Aki, trying to get through the tackle. Aki with the offload. Good one to Stander. An advantage being played as well, I think, for a late tackle.
PK only.
Sexton launches the Gary Owen. Keith Earls up after this one, so too Jordan Larmour, who's going to win it. Gone back off an Argentina hand, will go back for the penalty.
Yeah, it's going to be against Augustin Cravey. Just a late hit on Johnny Sexton, I think.
Yeah.
Just have to wait and see the severity of it. But CJ Stander now is getting more carries, getting over the gain line. You just see it here, yeah. Late, penalty only, I would suggest.
Johnny. There's your mark there.
Well, there's the extra protection that Eddie Jones was talking about during the week that Johnny Sexton gets from referees.
I've also had a word to Rory about it. I don't want any more hits off the ball, okay? There's been a couple against them. We've had this now as well. Okay. No more hits. I've already spoken to them.
Yeah, well, you can see Augustin Cravey has captained Argentina for the last 5 or 6 years. He still wants to get his word in. It was a definite penalty. And interestingly, Ireland not going for the corners here, or looking to get a foothold in the 22. It's all about points on the board now. And this, you would think, is right on Johnny Sexton's limit. Just about 49.5 metres.
Well, I didn't think yesterday, when we had the captain's run, that the weather conditions were going to be as good as they are tonight. Absolutely brutal in Dublin. Johnny Sexton, as you say, almost on the halfway line here. Two out of three so far. Just get the feeling, the longer this game goes on, every single kick is going to be crucial. Needs a good strike. Is that going to have the distance? No. Falls just short.
Yeah, I just thought it was just that yard or two outside of his distance. Now, obviously, he knows the conditions here better than anyone. Felt he might get it, and I can understand why he went for it.
Inches in that one. 17-15 it stays, then Argentina still in front as Keith Earls takes the restart. Again, the tackle comes in from Alemano. Alemano and Lavanini have put themselves about on it.
The work rate is phenomenal. But Stander again getting on the ball.
There from Marmion, just a little bit slower than he wanted, and that's why advantage being played to Ireland now. So Jordan Larmour with the pass to Stockdale, trying to step inside. Marmion to Levy. Low look pass to Sexton. Advantage still being played as Addison looks to unleash Bundy Aki as Earls outside him. Aki one-handed carry. Argentina trying to get back on their feet to steal the ball, but Ireland have enough numbers there. Sexton to Henderson, tries to bounce off Garcia Bota, and there for Marmion again. Quick recycle ball. Sexton in behind. Jordan Larmour just running out of room, and James Ryan almost on his shoulder there. Go back. Advantage being played all the while against Lavanini.
Yeah, Lavanini just not rolling away, but again, Ireland unable to breach that defensive line from Argentina, and they're used to having to defend this multi-phase rugby. They face it with the Jaguares in Super Rugby all the time. High-tempo games don't phase this team anymore.
So Sexton goes to the corner, finds touch inside the Argentina 22.
Yeah, and again we see CJ Stander getting across the gain line, and Lavanini just lying there. You have to be seen at least to make an effort to get out of the way. He just lay there.
So what can Ireland do from here then? Just over half an hour to play at the Aviva, and again the line-out malfunctions, and again Argentina steal one. It's the second time they've stolen on an Irish throw in this game, and Rory Best, you can see, is having a bit of words there.
Yeah, well, there's a bit of mouthing going on now. It's actually they lost 2 in the first half, and that's 3 out of 6. 50% return from the line-out is really poor from Ireland's point of view. And you know, the lads are mentioning Devon Toner. I'm having a look down. Certainly all the options that Argentina have, it enables them to put 3 guys up in the air.
This time they win it. It's James Ryan sets them all. At the back with Levy. It's good work by the Irish pack. And the crowd are roaring them on here. Levy's still holding it. Now looks for Marmion. Stander on a decoy run. Back inside to Sexton from Bundyaki.
Off your feet, Blue, no hands!
Again, Argentina read it pretty well. Marmion flat pass this time. Good carry from James Ryan. Furlong. Tackled by Alamano.
Stay there, Four, stay there.
Told to get himself out of harm's way. Henderson this time. Sexton to Ryan. De La Fuente goes low to bring him down. Marmion has it. Sexton again. For Addison, a little bit of a half gap, but Orlando watched him every step of the way. Healy. See Cravey in over the ball, but just shoved out of the way.
Lavanini again.
Again, yeah, it's pretty strategic positioning as Stockdale takes it inside of 22, lost the ball. Did Larmour step out? The flag has gone up on his near side. It should be an Argentina line-out.
Yeah, but again, Ireland just not able to get in behind that Argentine defence. Lavanini has been brilliant in terms of line there. He got caught all right for 1 penalty, but Stockdale just running out of space there. Manages to keep in touch first time. Jordan Larmour steps in right in front of the assistant referee.
How many? 5.
Yeah, and just looking at the bench, Jack McGrath is about to come in, but no sign of Toner.
Creevy goes to Guido Petty. Second row playing, and Openside takes it and sets them all up back to his hooker.
Stay there, Four, stay fully bound.
Cavalli getting instructions from the referee, setting himself to try and find touch. He will do so and relieve a bit of pressure as Jack McGrath gets ready to come in.
Yeah, Argentina's line-out has been supreme, and the trouble is, Hugh, while Ireland have the strongest scrum, there's only been 5 scrums in the match. I don't think we've had one in the second half yet.
So Cian Healy's shift is done. Jack McGrath comes in for his 52nd cap. Henderson is the target there, but it's come back on the Irish side. It's just not as clean as it should be. Ryan. Furlong.
Release!
Marmion to Sexton, launching the Gary Owen. Addison's up after this one, up really quickly as well. He's going to contest this ball, but underneath the high one. Felly did well. Tackles enough to be made, and Mojano doing his best to evade Jack McGrath. Back inside, beautiful line as well. Absolutely super by Boffelli over the halfway line. Little kick ahead, Boffelli. Where's this going to bounce? Sexton is back there. Johnny Sexton taking the tackle from Sanchez. Super break by the Argentinian full-back. And Ireland inside their 22 now. Need to gather themselves here. Marmion feeds Furlong. On to Jack McGrath.
Off two! Let it go, boys, let it go, yeah. Thank you.
Marmion blocked down, but also
touch,
the touch, and it came off an Argentina hand.
Yeah, but brilliant play there from Emiliano Buffelli. Firstly, in a defensive role, commanding in the air, where Ireland have been hesitant at the back. He took the kick. Look at him here. Again, it's the inside ball. And Ireland's inside defence has been really poor this evening. Buffelli just trying to keep the ball alive. He is a real threat there in the back.
Come on, boys, time's not off. Let's go, Green.
Ireland just can't seem to get any sustained period of pressure.
Well, that back three of Delgy, Buffelli.
Get the water off.
Sanchez as well, in fact, all scored 4 tries in the Rugby Championship in 2018, so I know how to get over the whitewash. Very best here to find the target. Henderson, ball off the top to use. Sexton, Addison, Levy trying to get in behind, but tackle from Orlando was good. Sexton again takes it back from O'Mahony. Better from Ireland. Aki straightens up and gives it to Earls over the halfway line. 25 minutes to play, 2 points the gap. Henderson into contact. Marmion switching the point as well, coming back on this near side. Aki. Looks like Sanchez has picked up a bit of an arm injury as well. He's holding his left arm at the moment. Ireland still with possession. O'Mahony to Sexton.
Kieran Marmion is limping as well.
Tackle release!
Marmion looks to be really struggling here.
Sorry, mate.
He can barely run. Sexton to Addison. Argentina defence holding up pretty well. Sexton in behind to Aki. Stockdale inside to Earls, and Earls on the switch away from that touchline. Marmion. Massive hit on Tyke Furlong.
Lavanini again.
Both second rows.
Alemano, incredible.
Showed the full brunt of that, and Tyke Furlong slow getting back on his feet. Good to see him up though, shaking that off. McGrath. Again, Lavanini. Another tackle from the big second row. Ferocious work rate. Johnny Sexton with the switch back inside to Jordan Larmour, using those quick feet of his.
High advantage.
Completely different game than Chicago, obviously, last weekend for Larmour. Just hasn't had anywhere near the kind of space that he would have had against Italy. Vanishing play, Aki. Half dummy from him, but again, it's you know who, Lavanini and Alemano coming across to make the tackle. That was forward. I think Marmion's going to have to go off here. Penalty Ireland.
Time off.
Yeah, he's been carrying his ankle there for the last 3 or 4 minutes. Sanchez also in trouble.
Yeah, it's simply the amount of penalties now. We've had 2 against Blue 5 for not rolling. Okay, so discipline at the breakdown. Hear my message. Discipline at the breakdown needs to improve, okay?
The only issue I have with this, Hugh, it's about the 4th time the referee has spoken to
a couple of minutes ago.
The Argentine captain, as we see Kieran Marmion disgusted, having to go off, and he's done quite well.
Yeah.
Shake of the head, so frustrating. He's another guy who's obviously had injury problems.
Yeah, and he's very hard when Conor Murray is in situ to try and get game time. But Luke McGrath, who's had a very good season for Leinster, has his chance now. But Argentina going to have to make a couple of changes as well. Mateus Moroni, a very experienced player about to come in. Sanchez seems to be okay, and he really is the catalyst for this team. When he went off against Australia in that last Rugby Championship game, they were 24 points up and they managed to lose it.
All good with that?
Yeah. So Johnny Sexton then to try and push Ireland back in front. Much better strike by Johnny Sexton. Conor will tell you everything you need to know about that one. 18-17, Ireland back in front. 22.5 minutes left to play.
Yeah, and you can see there, this is just where Kieran Marmion gets injured, just rolls the ankle there. He knows it immediately, in pain. But the approach has changed from Ireland. In the first half, every penalty they were going to the corner. No points at a premium. Johnny Sexton had to take it, and Devon Toner finally on. Rory Best gone off as well.
Best is off, and so too Ian Henderson. So Devon Toner's come in, and Sean Cronin for Ireland. Orlando has gone off for Argentina. So Sanchez obviously okay to continue, and Matthias Moroni has come into the centre. Carry from McGrath.
Ball's still in.
So Luke
Let's go on, let's hurry that up.
20 odd minutes to show what he can do. First kick from him, plenty of height on that one. The chase from O'Mahony, but what a take from Buffelli again. Brilliant by the Argentina full back. And Amano into Devon Toner. And Sean Cronin, 2 substitutes for Ireland, making the tackle. Sanchez carries it, Jack McGrath puts him down. The help from James Ryan. Lavanini. It's the offload away. Again, Buffelli, not much room to move there. Sanchez, Gary Owen, Larmer underneath it. He should have time to deal with it and call a mark if he wants to. That's exactly what he does.
Yeah, that's better.
That's a really good kick.
Great kick. I'm telling you, I'm not sure if I've seen. We're on 60 minutes. We haven't had a scrum in the second half. Ireland, we know, are dominant in the area, but we haven't had a scrum. Incredible. Buffelli is just supreme in the air. He's like Australia's Israel Folau, the way he managed to hang there.
No, move him off. Green's on the line.
Peter O'Mahony taking the captain's armband with Rory Best off, and it's
19, stay there.
Argentina trying to force their way forward, doing a pretty good job of it as well at the back with Cravey.
Go rewind.
Just having a quick look. McGrath standing in that inside channel. Just ask the referee if he's okay to try and disrupt there. Devon Toler told to leave it. Kubeli puts one up. Stockdale underneath, that's going to have to call for this one. Did really well, Jacob Stockdale. Stockdale puts one in behind. Brilliant play by the winger, and he had to take that ball under all sorts of pressure as well. And the crowd think there was a bit of interference with Luke McGrath, who was chasing down that kick. Got across to make the tackle though.
That's it.
Larmer, bit of space here, can't break the first tackle. Ortega Desio got him right around the ankles. Devon Toner, 2 to bring him down. Support from Cronin, leaves it for McGrath. Sexton, pass to Levy. It's another couple of metres in there for McGrath once more. Ryan, support from McGrath. James Ryan with a really good carry. Better from Ireland here. Can they take advantage? Sexton, plenty of options for him. Straight up the middle they go. Standard
out now, 12.
Trying to fight his way over that gain line. Sexton back inside. O'Mahony on his shoulder and presents the ball well. Pontiaki this time. Big hit from Moroni. McGrath goes left. Stander trying to drop the shoulder, but Sexton still has it. Some support there, just over around the line in his inside shoulder. McGrath goes left. Earls to the outside. Levy.
Release tackler!
McGrath again, quick ball for Ireland. Took a bit of a tackle as he went to pass that ball. Referee says it was fine, and Keith Earls direct the scrum half. Aki to the midfield and in CJ Stander. Tackled by Matera. Tried the inside ball to Earls, and Petty was there to put him down. Another big carry from James Ryan.
Get out!
One of the better Ireland players in the match today, O'Mahony. To McGrath. Sexton. Devon Toner. Luke McGrath. Any gap there. Tackled by Lavanini. Better attention from Ireland though.
He's missed it.
Happy to go through the phases. 19th coming up. Levy broke the first tackle but not the second. Pablo Matera. The crowd now roaring Ireland on. We'd love to see a score here, and just when you say the pass goes loose, and Addison has to tidy up here. Addison breaks the first tackle. Beautiful pass from Lerner. Lerner with a little grubber. Into touch it goes.
Well, it's the first time Ireland have got to over 18 phases for a long time in this game. But again, just the pass from Tadhg Furlong in the end went loose. Ireland were lucky to retrieve it here. Will Addison has done really well in his first full start. Lammer, last week that would have worked. This week the ball goes into touch. But Will Addison again on the ball. Does really well here to suck in the defender. Jordan Lammer, the ball just rolling out of play.
So Julian Montoya comes in, substitute hooker in place of Cravey goes off. Thomas Lozana and Gonzalo Butrano in that scrum half. 3 substitutes for Argentina, and Montoya in his 49th cap, first out for him, and reach to try and hit his man on the line out here. Pressure on, and look at that, and then he gets up to steal it. McGrath, and the offload is good to Ryan. What a time to steal the liner. Luke McGrath, ball at the base for Ireland. A try here will be very welcome indeed from an Irish point of view. Levy picks and goes. Dan Levy, did he get there?
Held up.
He's held up.
Held up. We're going scrum, guys. Back here.
Back for the 5-metre scrum.
Well, incredibly close, but again, it comes to the first steal that Ireland have managed to do in the on an Argentine throw. Peter O'Mahony up at the front, and this time Ireland managed to retain possession. Dan Levy's had a really good game since he's come in for the unfortunate Sean O'Brien, but he's just held up very close, I have to say. Peter O'Mahony there, Ortega Decio,
time's not off.
and James Ryan, another carry from him.
Boys, time's not off.
12 carries from James Ryan.
What a shift he's put in.
He's worked his socks off.
Yeah, thanks.
22 years of age. 12th cap to date, James Ryan, and
that's face before the set.
the season pro out there. Sean O'Brien, you have to feel for him.
Yeah, you can see it in his face.
To the left
Absolutely
of it, yeah?
shattered, I would imagine. So looking forward to getting back in a green shirt. Looking forward to New Zealand next week.
Does that suggest that it's not broken if he's still on the sideline? Would he be going straight to hospital? We just don't know. He's in a sling, is he? He's in a sling, so underneath his coat.
Well, big opportunity here. First scrum of the second half, 65 minutes in. Brilliant position, straight in front of the post. Options left and right.
Advantage to Ireland as well. Stander to Luke McGrath. Luke McGrath trying to slip inside. Luke McGrath for Ireland. What a finish.
You had advantage there. We brought that down.
It was almost too easy in the end. That's 2 tries that we've seen from Ireland from 2 scrum halves off a retreating Argentine scrum. Just like to see it again. That's the problem when your scrum is under so much pressure. Your back row, they have to stay down. Now Ireland did have a penalty advantage again because it was wheeled, and you can just see there, I think it's Butrano who's come on. No.
Thanks, David.
Just caught Pablo Matera, the captain, in no man's land.
Looks like he was trying to blame the referee for that, but he was just wrong-footed.
No, he was just, he went too wide. Luke McGrath, opportunistic but easy, you have to say. And
25-17. Ireland stretched their lead.
But again, all coming from the power of the scrum. You just see, both props down on their knees there, but Ireland had the penalty at that stage, and Matera goes way too wide. Yeah, caught on the inside. Great awareness from Luke McGrath, who's just on the field.
Argentina take the restart. CJ Stander gathers it. Tackled again by Alemano.
Make sure you use your foot. Let's go.
McGrath, plenty of height on that kick as well. Boffelli's underneath it. Pressure from Keith Earls. Good tackle from Keith Earls. Argentina trying to recycle as Levy makes a bit of a nuisance of himself again. Sanchez with a pop pass. Still there for Vetrano. And Sexton this time with the hit. Vetrano to Lavanini. Matera to Moroni. Next score in this game absolutely crucial. If Ireland get it, you feel that's it, done and dusted. Argentina will know that.
Turnover's good.
Brilliant.
That's better from Ireland.
Dan Levy again. What an impact he's made since he's come on.
No hands down, Blue.
Luke McGrath back to Sexton. Again, looking for the spiral. Is this one going to bounce in? It is just about. His best contact, but
no, well, you can see he wasn't happy with the contact himself. Despite the fact that he found touch, it's been that kind of a day, I think, for Johnny Sexton. Just kind of slid off the outside of his boot, but he did find touch.
Yeah, just a sub.
In comes Andy Porter for his 10th cap.
Yeah, but Tyke Furlong took a massive bang to the face there in contact, went to deck, got back up immediately.
Quick ball from Argentina. Sanchez. Matera.
Couldn't
hold on to it. Again, Levy there. Little grubber kick through. We sure he got back
Always
for
under pressure,
the knock
boys,
on.
come back.
And it'll be a scrum
Go
to
back
Ireland.
Back for the knock on just as well. And it's a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes from Ireland.
Yeah, go.
A lot of handling errors in that opening half. 6 in that opening half alone. This is just a bang that Tyke Furlong is actually from Luke McGrath, but he's okay.
Another big shift from Tyke Furlong.
Yeah, but again, Ireland know the position they are here.
You all good?
Scrum again in a good position, right in front of the post, about 24, 25 metres out. This is the first
let's go.
try in the opening half. Kieran
He's going to
Marmion.
kick that elbow up. On that last one, you had the elbow down, took it down.
Bundy Aki. Ireland's
go,
second
guys.
try. And just watch Matera goes too wide there.
just make
Luke
sure you go along
McGrath
with your
identified
line,
that
okay?
immediately, stepped
your
on the
elbow up.
inside
Come
under
back
the
on.
post. But a sense of panic now with Argentina in this scrum. Andrew Porter, Sean Cronin and Jack McGrath, a whole new front row for Ireland.
Set!
Luke McGrath with the feed, solid from Ireland. Standard picks off the base and then feeds Sexton. And outside Addison. Addison trying to go through, but Moroni made the tackle inside the Argentina 22. Sexton again in behind to Levy, tries the hand off to Aki. Pass a little bit loose, and Sean Cronin picks it up off the base and runs straight into Thomas Lozana.
Come back here.
Back for the penalty.
Loose head, collapse.
You see Bundy Aki down holding his ankle on the ground there, Donald.
Yeah, and this is a serious concern now, because we know Gary Ringrose wasn't fit to play. Henshaw damaged his hamstring in the warm-up, and there he is, Robbie Henshaw, looking on, wondering what's going on. There's a bit of a curse on the centres at the moment, and Bundy Aki, who's had a solid game, looks as if he's twisted his knee or his ankle, and Andrew Conway as the top off.
We'll just get him checked out, eh?
And he's back on his feet.
Well, you often see him go down, he gets into it, he recovers from these things. Look at the smile on his face. Great attitude.
Well, here's how he did it.
Just
there was Jack McGrath.
Yeah, ran into Jack McGrath.
Rob, you good? Okay.
So just over 10 minutes to play. 25-17. Ireland lead.
Yeah, we're back where we started a couple of minutes ago. Same scrum, same position. And it's the
lads, let's go
Lucio Sordoni, the replacement loosehead, who's just come on. And his first action was to give away a penalty.
Rodrigo Brunei would make his debut. He comes on. It looks like he's just about to, as Johnny Sexton goes into the corner. Are you surprised by that? Crowd like it.
Yeah. We know they're capable of driving Argentina over the line. The scrum, when they looked at it, the scrum is that much further out, at least with the line out. It brings you within 5 metres, puts more pressure on the Argentine defence. So I think it's a good decision. Peter Romani has taken over the captaincy from Rory Best, himself and Johnny Sexton, deciding this is the better option.
Who's 6? Pablo, who's captain?
Number 12. Pablo Matera is going off the captain.
Just holding Justin when he gets to the back here.
Geronimo de la Fuente takes over the captaincy, I think.
Yeah, he did say that.
So Cronin to throw. Devin Toner, safe pair of hands in that line-out.
That's what he gives you.
I wonder what Joe Schmidt look at that for New Zealand next week. It's at the back with Cronin. Ireland trying to set them all. Argentina doing a good job of holding them firm. Aki testing out that ankle, looks okay. Tackle on the ground by Lozana. There again for Omani. He's chopped down by Montoya. And ball should be there for Luke McGrath, a little bit slower than he wanted.
Scoop! Scoop! Tackle release!
Stander. McGrath switching it to the right. McGrath carries. Flat line from Addison, just almost fell as he took that ball too well to hang on to and recycle. In fact, here's Bundyaki. One try already to his name from somewhere quite similar in the first half. McGrath looking for numbers 8. And there's Jack McGrath with Andrew Porter on his shoulder, the two props combining. Stander, that one went backwards. The referee said it's picked up by Ortega Decio in Argentina. Well, it looks like they're going to get away with it.
Tackle release now, roll! Get him up.
Bertranu back to Sanchez. Sanchez needs to be stopped, and he is. Tackled by Levy. Bertranu once more. Little dummy almost in a show by Delgi. Taken by Lozana. 8.5 minutes left. Ireland looking for 10 wins in a row at home.
Yeah, but again, Hugh, uncharacteristic errors. Normally when Ireland get into 22, they're clinical, they keep recycling, they keep going until they score. But you just see CJ Stander trying to get the pass away. Was that a deliberate knock-on? No, it was in the tackle. They're reviewing it to see if it was a deliberate knock-on, but no.
Come off. Hold up, guys, subs. 3.
More substitutions for
10,
Argentina. It's another debut. This time Lucio Sordoni. And in comes Joaquin Diaz Bonilla to earn his 3rd cap. So Mario Ledesma empties the bench.
And Nicolas Sanchez going off. You don't normally see that. But this tour, it's about blooding players as well. Argentina, no different to everybody else. Looking towards the World Cup next year, trying to blood these younger players.
It's the first of 3 tests for Argentina in November. Ireland, France again, and then Scotland. And finally they play the Barbarians before they head back home.
Stationary
so we'll get an opportunity.
5, stay there,
players
5!
picked on the panel. And as they've highlighted, all home base at the moment. Bundy Aki trying to switch. Look at that, brilliant drawing by Aki. Breaks the tackle, there from McGrath. Sexton wants it now. Stockdale bounces off the first one. Sexton again. It's chopped down. Good tackle it was too by Maroney.
Stay, no hands!
Cronin. Lavanini shoved out of the way. Toner to McGrath. Lovely hands. Larmer back inside to O'Mahony. Oh, that's brilliant, Dan Levy. And again to Earls. Can they finish it off? Lovely interchange between those 3. And a chance for James Ryan again to carry and again to get over that gain line and give them front foot ball. Stander pushed back by Brunei. Ryan again.
It's better from Ireland.
Luke McGrath to O'Mahony. And O'Mahony comes up to put him down. Stander.
Release now!
They looked a little bit high from here. Jack McGrath. Tackled by Lozana. Sexton. Flat pass again. Argentina up so quickly. Porter.
No.
Stander turned the wrong way by Lavanini, but did well to get the ball back. Sexton to Ryan. McGrath. One McGrath to the other, and the ball's gone loose and gone forward. The referee's whistle's gone. Penalty to Ireland.
Well, the defence of Argentina has been incredible, but the pressure proving too much. Penalty given away, and you just see it here again. It's much better Ireland controlling the phases with much better Bundyaki, who's had a good game, managing to get through those tackles, presenting the ball.
Just leave the ball there.
Great hands, Peter O'Mahony.
I know, but you've hit him.
Again, another offload here. Dan Levy, as I mentioned, done well since he came in for Sean O'Brien.
Okay, and you've hit him, you took him out of the game for it. Okay, that's why it's a penalty.
So Johnny Sexton's going to have a shot at goal. And you see Lavanini again, just tackling the player without the ball.
Yeah, he's played really well. But, practicality comes over, and Ireland really have to take the points. Kill this game off.
This will make it an 11-point lead with 5 minutes to go. Argentina would need 2 tries. Straight in front of the post, should be a formality for Sexton. Four out of 6 from Sexton so far, as you can see. Taking his time over this one. Struck it well. Flags go up. 28 points to 17, which means that Argentina would need 2 tries to get back in, and they've only got 4.5 minutes left. That should be it for Ireland, Donald.
Yeah, it is. Look, I mean, they've had to work really hard, but I think, you know what? It'll work in their favour. They needed a hard game. This game and next week, they're the only 2 Southern Hemisphere sides that Ireland will play prior to the World Cup, and you're not just going to rock up and defeat these teams. Talk about a 19-point spread was ridiculous, really, coming into the match. And Ireland have had to work for everything they've got.
Joey Carberry, and before him Andrew Conway onto the pitch. Lavanini going off for HIA. Guido Petty has come back on into the second row, where he's played all of his international career. What about that for a take? Juan Pablo Saiz as well, getting into the thick of things. Ball should be there for Bertrano, an advantage being played to Argentina. Well, they need 2 tries, and they get one quickly. Might give themselves a sliver of a chance, but still advantage being played. Bertrano, flat ball to Juan Pablo Saiz. De La Fuente. Stander puts him down. Bertrano again looking for flat runners and trying to puncture a hole in the Irish defence inside the 22. Buffelli, tackled by Luke McGrath.
Now we're going backwards, guys.
Come back. Penalty.
17 green.
Yeah, Argentina have to go here.
Please. 17 green.
Looks like they're going to try and go into the corner. Joaquin Diaz Bonilla finds touch, and it'll be an Argentina line-out.
Yeah, and their line-out has been so strong, but Ireland defended well on the ground.
Keep the front for me, please, Lido. Right, here's your mark, boys. It's there, okay?
Carried by Juan Pablo Saiz there.
That's your mark.
In his debut against New Zealand, and Nelson off the bench. 29 years of age, and this only his 4th cap. So new to the international scene, despite 29 years.
Yeah, just imagine when they add the 5 or 6 overseas players for the World Cup. They will be a serious threat next year.
O'Mahony ripped it clear, popped it off to McGrath. And Argentina don't even know what hit them. The chase is on, Earls after it, so too Stockdale trying to get their hands here. They've got to let him off the ground. They did brilliantly. Earls first there, Stockdale in support. But what about the rip from Peter O'Mahony?
Yeah, he did really well.
Argentina hadn't a clue what was after happening to them. Next thing you know, the ball's halfway down the pitch. Box kick attempt from Gonzalo Bertrano.
Back off green, play on.
It's come back on the Argentina side. Just over 2 to go. Surely not enough time to get 2 tries unless they go the full length of the pitch here. Kick the ball away. back there goes Larmer. Loads of time here. And Larmer happy to boot that one into touch.
Yeah, Argentina, I mean, they have to try and get some field position, get some points on the board, but the clock is against them, less than 2 minutes to go. Again, we just see Guido Petti, and might have been kicked in the back row, but he's played more as a second row.
Ask you for your man of the match, please, Donald.
Yeah, look, it hasn't been vintage performance from Ireland. I thought Lavanini, Sanchez, really good for Argentina. For Ireland, a scrappy performance. CJ Stander had a lot of good carries. Dan Levy, I thought, made a big impact when he came in. But my Guinness series man of the match is Ireland's second row, James Ryan. 17 carries, 12 tackles. His work rate has been phenomenal.
Yeah, he's been brilliant again. Just standard that he set for himself.
Tackle roll now!
To hit it almost every single time he puts on an Ireland jersey. Ball in behind. Bonilla trying to get something going for Argentina. Delgi. Seems like a long time ago as he scored that try, and hasn't really got into the game as much as he would have liked. Both wingers, in fact, have been a little bit quiet, particularly in the second half. Mojano and Delgi. Bofelli's played well, particularly over the high balls, but still there for Argentina. De La Fuente carry. Montoya hits the ground for Ventrano. Back in the talking Bonilla. Tackled by Addison. Again, someone who came in very, very late to the team. Happy that
guys.
He would have played his part today. 15 seconds left to go. Will Addison, I mean, look, we don't know how serious Robbie Henshaw's injury is. Gary Ringrose maybe to come back in, but what do you assess of his
I think he's done really well. I mean, very difficult when you come in at the last minute. As I've said, he's only been part of the Irish squad since August. In fact, he'd be the guy with the least minutes with Joe Schmidt under his belt. In the circumstances, I think he has done really well. To his credit, he's a very versatile player, so he may now come into consideration. Certainly off the bench, he can play full back. He's played on the wing, but I think he's acquitted himself really well here this evening.
So time for one last scrum then. New front rows: Montoya, Pablo Zeiss and Sardoni against Cronin, McGrath and Porter.
Set! Early. Early, guys, early.
Free kick for Ireland, and that should be that.
Yeah, but that's scrum. If Argentina are serious about competing in the World Cup, they have to resolve that issue. They were lucky to a degree, given that there was so few scrums in the game today, only 7, incredibly.
Joey Kirby taps the free kick and kicks it out over the touchline. The referee, Nick Berry, blows the final whistle. It wasn't vintage Ireland or anything near it, but they got the win, Donald Lennon.
Yeah, they did, look, and I think it'll actually stand to them that they had to work so hard for this, particularly what's coming down the line next week. I think, you know, Argentina's defence was outstanding. Once Ireland were held on the gain line, they found it very hard to build their momentum. And you have to take your hat off to Argentina. People were writing them off coming in here. You can see the improvements they've made. I think Ireland will be better next week as a result of this. I think Joe Schmidt will look at tweaking his team. Certainly, I think Devon Toner, when he came on, he made help to shore up that line out. I think Dan Levy did enough to suggest if Sean O'Brien is out that he would come straight in, but there's a lot of work to be done to beat New Zealand next week.
Well, New Zealand weren't at their best at all today against England. They got the win. Same for Ireland. So we now have a situation where both teams will look for a drastic improvement, really, and it sets it up very nicely for next week.
I think it does. You know, Joe Schmidt will be so annoyed with so many aspects of that performance. I guarantee you Ireland will be better next week, but they'll have to be if they want to beat New Zealand. As England found out today, England played really well, raced into a 15-point lead, but they still couldn't sustain it. You've got to play for 80 minutes against New Zealand. This performance today would not be good enough to beat the All Blacks, even if they're not firing on all cylinders.
Confirmation there of the full-time score: Ireland 28, Argentina 17, and that makes it 10 wins in a row on home soil, and not been done before, so that at least can go down in the record books for Ireland. 10 in a row here in Dublin, and for a lot of players as well, they'll know that there's more to come. Johnny Sexton, I'm sure, happy to get through as long as he did, albeit another guy who looked a little bit frustrated for large parts of the game. Let's go down, because Claire McNamara is with the man of the match, James Ryan.
James Ryan, congratulations, you are the Guinness man of the match, and Jennifer Gleeson from Diageo is here to make the presentation. James, he closed it out there in the second half, but I suppose a disjointed performance at times.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of things we can get better on there. But at the end of the day, we're pretty happy. It was a serious test match against one of the top sides in the world. So, as I mentioned, plenty to improve on, but we'll take that result.
Dominant scrum today, but some problems with the line out.
Yeah, in fairness to the boys, we dug really deep there in the scrum and had some good outcomes. Definitely some areas that we could have improved on in the line out, and we'll look to do that come next week.
Man of the match performance from you, and it's important to impress, isn't it, given the growing competition in this squad?
Absolutely, there's competition for places everywhere, and some serious depth. So it's a great squad to be part of at the moment.
Now, a huge, eagerly look forward to game next week, first against second in the world, but I suppose Ireland will need to be a lot more clinical come next Saturday.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll enjoy this win. We had to dig really deep, and we'll review it tomorrow and Monday, and then we'll look forward to next week.
Congratulations on your performance, James.
Thank you. Cheers.
Ireland captain Rory Best is here as well. Rory, 10 out of 10 wins at home for the first time. What's your take on this evening's performance?
Yeah, look, I think there was a lot of positives. There are a few things that we're going to have to work on. A few things we're probably a wee bit rusty. We're probably a wee bit slow out of the blocks. But look, Argentina are a quality side, and it's another win for us with some good stuff and some things they'll need to get better for next week.
I suppose there was a lack of cohesion there at certain times. What do you put that down to?
Look, it's been a long time since this group has played together. The boys did really well last week, but they were sort of a wee bit slower to the blocks as well at times last week. Robbie dropping out in the warm-up, but look, we're used to all of that, and we'll not look for excuses. We'll look at how we're going to get better, how we're going to improve, and how we're going to build into next week again.
And certainly a good test ahead of what's to come next week.
Yeah, absolutely. When Argentina would come, they'd be physical. They'd make it very difficult for us. They'd be good at the breakdown. They'd be good at the set piece, and it was a real challenge. And there was a couple of times when the game wasn't the balance, and we just had enough character, and we got together, and we made the most of a few of the chances that we got.
Thank you, Rory.
No problem, Cheers.
Of an injury list, which we will bring you before we go off air. But in general, Rory Best obviously playing the captain straight bat there, as you well know, Stephen. Yeah, and you can pick it apart all you want, but how much did the last 20 minutes kind of make it okay?
Yeah, you talk about picking it apart. I think Joe will be picking everything apart for next week because they need to get things right. Rory mentioned challenges. The biggest challenge is to get the line out right, because if they don't have a line out set piece function against the All Blacks, they can forget about it. That small tweaks here and there, but there was a few calls that weren't good, there was a few jumps that weren't good, a few throws, and it just didn't work out for them today. It's going to be a very quiet changing room in there, I think. I think a lot of the guys will be disappointed in their own individual performance and as a collective. So they're going to have to get their heads together, review the game come Monday. There's going to be a few guys that are going to be pointed out, Eddie. They're going to be brought into the spotlight and say, look, this isn't good enough, and it's not going to be good enough against the All Blacks.
Well, name and shame here. I mean, there's no shame to it. Guys can have off days. Who didn't perform? Brent, you want to...
No, well, I think it was a hard game to perform, because when we were talking about who's going to get the player of the match, I said, well, it's not an easy decision because there's nobody stood out.
Dan Levy was probably best, and he was a sub.
Well, he came on as a sub, and certainly I would think that Donald is right that I think if Sean O'Brien didn't have enough game time, I think that Dan Levy and Van der Fly probably vying for that position. I think Devon Toner came on, and we saw the line out done up. I don't know whether. Jordan, I don't think he was good enough in the air to possibly risk against the All Blacks in a kicking game. Now,
is there a possibility that we oversold him? I mean, the guy is under an awful lot of pressure. He's been mentioned in the same breath as all sorts.
He's out of position for him, and we know that, and he's an extremely exciting player. But Italy is different. We're not saying that about him. We're just saying Italy is a different situation.
We didn't oversell him because we said these are areas we need to look at.
We in collective Irish sporting public.
That always happens.
Against Fiji and these teams, that's fine. You're getting a lot more front foot ball and stuff like that. But against the All Blacks, when they're going to do exactly what Argentina did, they're going to see a new guy in a position that's, a novice, inexperienced at international level, and they're going to put high balls up on him.
Going back to the game in general, the two things that changed the game was Devon Toner off the bench. The line-up was suddenly functional again. And the second thing was Dan Levy off the bench. He had a big impact in the game. He played a real open side role. Something we talked about before the game that has to be looked at for next week. And again, look, we're not going to bully too many scrums like we did today. Like the 3 tries came out of scrums. We didn't really build any pressure with the ball. When we tried, we were sloppy. Our Argentina just defended very well. We didn't get too much traction with the ball in hand.
Okay, well, sure. The general consensus, obviously, there has to be a different performance next week. We'll see how that might come around, and we'll look back at the key moments from that game after the break. Aviva emptying, pretty sharpish this evening. Everyone moving back into the night. If not jumping for joy, at least they've seen another Irish win, a 10th consecutive win here at Lansdowne Road. And everything moves on, of course, to next week, including our conversation in a minute. But Stephen, roll back the clock there a couple of hours, and what did you expect? You know, in a reasonably optimistic but informed way, what did you expect from today and what weren't you given?
Well, I expected Ireland to be better, and Argentina probably to concede a lot more points, and they didn't, and they stood up. Guys come flying out of the defensive line, making big hits for Argentina. They really stood up well to a lot of pressure in the second half, but I expected Ireland to be clinical like they were last week against Italy. They didn't play particularly well, but they put 50 points on Italy. I expect them to put a lot more points on this Argentina team, but look, it's things that went wrong today can be easily fixed, and if they fix them, then they'll be in good shape next week.
It's a bit simplistic, but it looked like when Ireland kind of got control of that game, it was about minute 50, 55, they just went back to a phase game. They kept it very, very simple, and that's the only time they got control. When they were trying things in the first half, they were going wrong.
Yeah, I suppose if you directed the same question to me, Stephen, I expected a bit more dynamism. You know, I expected a few more line breaks. I expected if you're going to beat these top teams regular basis, you need to make clean breaks somewhere. We didn't see that, but there was no continuity. So they did go back to what they know best. That was kind of more one-out runners, keeping it tight. You know, using the centres to crash through or something. So they looked a lot more clinical. The good thing, I suppose, about it when you always coach, and Eddie would say the same, you know, when you can underperform and still win and still have a decent enough cushion, then there's things to be fixed.
Was that game ever in the balance, though?
Well, yes, it was at one stage. Donald even said, you know, Ireland are usually a good second half performance in the first 10 minutes, which they didn't deliver. So it was in the balance, but I think, you know, the Argentinians operating off a retreating scrum, they were always going to struggle to score tries. And I think once Ireland realised that, then they just played the possession game. You know?
Well, that was it. There was one big facet of the Argentinian game missing. That won't happen next week.
No, I mean, the scrum was the root of their problems today for Argentina. The 3 tries we got came directly from the scrum. It's not what you expect from Argentina, but we had them in trouble from the get-go. Ironically, they had our line-out in trouble, and it wasn't until Devin Toner came in the line-out settled. And I think as well, you know, we didn't really play the type of rugby we normally see Ireland playing, which is building pressure, winning collisions, and then eventually somebody cracks and we go through and score.
Was that intentional? Was there a different approach to today?
Well, I think there's two sides to that. I think we probably went conservative because we made so many mistakes in the first half, so guys were less likely to take risks. And the second thing was that you have to say Argentina defended well. They made big hits, they got their line speed up, and for that reason they didn't give us the momentum. They had most of the line breaks at the end of the day, which is a telling feature.
And we'll come back to some of that in a minute. Claire standing by with Joe Schmidt. Let's hear from him now.
Joe, the win secured in that second half, so I suppose take us through what you were happy and unhappy with.
We probably didn't have a huge amount of continuity in the first quarter. We weren't great from the very first kickoff. We were untidy, and they put a lot of pressure on the subsequent quick kickoffs as well, and we weren't particularly good exiting at the start of the game, and we were a little bit inaccurate at line-out time, but our scrum was really strong. So on the back of that, we did get a bit of access into the game, and we're really happy with that. We did create a few opportunities, but to be fair to Argentina, they're very difficult to play against. They're very, very abrasive, hard to get really quick ball against them, and I think also it's a little bit hard to get continuity when you make such late changes that it was a good test for us to see if we could cope. Will was kind of not in the 23, and then he suddenly had to jump in toward the end of the warm-up. I thought he did really well as a result.
Yeah, there was that late change, and then to add to it during the game, you had more injuries added, Marmy and Sean O'Brien again. What's the update on him?
Yeah, looks like Sean's broken his right arm, so that's likely to keep him out of the game for a while, and he's devastated. Obviously, I thought he actually had a pretty good start to the game. He was his physical, robust self, and I know he's utterly disappointed. I think Kieran's all right. He just rolled his ankle a little bit, so hopefully he'll bounce back and be ready to go next week. I thought he did really well for us as well.
So plenty for you to ponder, I suppose, and think on in Ireland to be more clinical, as you will so need to be ahead of this huge test next week. Yeah,
and part of it's our own fault, because I think we had two pretty truncated windows to prepare for the two test matches. By the time we got back from Chicago, we trained Tuesday, Thursday, and then you're into a test match against a team that have played a whole rugby championship together and spent 2 weeks preparing for this game. So, we knew that it was going to be really tough, and we knew that we'd be challenged to try to put a few things together. And a few times we did, and we looked reasonably good. I thought we got space on the edge a couple of times. We just were probably a little bit too lateral. And then, in that second half, we got some nice interplay up that right-hand touch at one stage, but again, we didn't get points in behind it. So that there's a little bit of frustration, but there's certainly lots to play for next week. So it's not like we're going to suddenly go into our shell.
Okay, well, we'll see you next week. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Claire.
And just the point about Sean O'Brien, obviously it's a desperate bad fortune for him, but the fact that he came back out and watched the rest of his teammates, labour to that victory says a lot about the guy as well. It would have been easy to probably just hide.
Yeah, it does. I was his roommate for a number of years within the Ireland team, and to see him out injured yet again, I met him for coffee a few weeks ago. His arms were bulging, his biceps were bulging, he looked in really good physical shape.
Mad for road.
Just go out there, and it was just as everybody watched, his forearm hitting off the top of the head, which is very, very unlucky. I'm sure he'll be extremely disappointed in all the time and effort that he's put into his strength condition over the last year to come back, get the green jersey on, and then straight out again.
Yourself, then becomes psychological.
Yeah, of course.
You get sick of keeps taking the downs. The last couple of years for him has just been frustration after frustration. He worked so hard getting back, getting fit. Looking forward to the New Zealand game.
A bit cursed, I guess.
Then bang, another 6, 8 weeks out or something, maybe longer, and then you just go, you'll be on a downer for a few days.
Back to Joe. I mean, how much, we know there's a private Joe and a public Joe. There has to be. I mean, this is the game, But, I mean, how much of the private Joe did we see there?
Toys you make.
Zero.
Right.
Deflecting
it back to the Argentinians.
He was trying to put a positive spin on a bad performance. It was a bad performance by any stretch of the imagination. Nobody went out today thinking we played out badly. Okay, a couple of excuses was the late change, Robbie Henshaw. That doesn't help. But at the same time, Will Addison's in camp all week. One player going off, it could happen in the first minute of the game, doesn't change everything. And the second thing, the Chicago thing, well, look, they all went to Chicago and came back. They didn't. He kept the team for Chicago at home. They were out and getting ready in Carlton House all week.
We know a late bus distracted Joe a few seasons ago.
He stayed back with them. So I guess he's just trying to put a positive spin on what it's a disappointing performance.
He's trying to protect his players, I suppose, from criticism.
Every coach does that, I mean, the truth of the matter is, this wasn't good from Ireland today. There's no point in sugarcoating it. If our scrum hadn't been so dominant, we mightn't have got out of jail there. But that being said, we got the job done, but just about.
But Eddie, and we all know, you have bad days. If the boys aren't going to go out there every single game and blitz every team that they play. They're going to have off days, and today was certainly an off day.
And the fact they still won.
There's been so few off days. I think that's why everyone's optimism is at an all-time high.
And Donald talked about it before. He said there's a lack of atmosphere, and I think that comes from such high expectation because people think that you're going to go out and beat these teams handily all the time. But it's often in the performance. And again, I go back to all the great sides will always say you can have an off day, but as long as you're still winning. So the record is there. 10 wins, it's a record, so they're still winning. Argentina a few years ago, you'd have said, OK, well, if we can just get a win by 1 point,
sure,
they'll be happy. So there's a lot to work on, and they'll need to be better, but so will New Zealand. They'll be up. Steve Hansen will be going through the same thing that Joe is going through and saying, look, we need to tidy up on a lot of areas in their performance. So
but in general, I mean, what would you do? Again, it's a possibly predictable that I go back to you as an ex-coach of Ireland, but if you had that, I mean, you know, you took all the fellas on a coach to Coppers once to freshen them up many years ago. I mean, what kind of... I'm not sure two young men of this generation even know where it is, but I mean, what would you do?
Joe takes them to Coppers tonight.
I don't know. I'm suggesting, was there a lack...
see you there anyway.
Yeah. But was there a lack of spark? Was there a lack of zip? There seemed to be. I mean, what do you do to refresh?
Well, I think there's two obvious things, is that his line-out selection didn't work. We were in trouble all day until Devon Toner came back. And
I'm talking about extracurricularly, though. Isn't there something?
But I mean, hold on. We can talk about extracurricular, but the reality of it is that one of the reasons we didn't play well is our line-out didn't fire.
Sure.
The other reason we didn't play well is our back row was out of kilter. We didn't have a Lucy on the field, an open side. We talked about this before the game. Levy comes on by dirt of Sean O'Brien's unfortunate injury, and that changes it at the breakdown. Now, there are two very important things that if they go wrong next week, we're in big trouble. No, they're fixables, and he will fix them. That's just what it's all about. I think our attacking game, disappointing thing for me was our loose kicking. We kicked very loosely at times.
We'll have a look at some of that in a moment. Yeah.
And then I think generally, when we went back to type of playing the continuity game and trucking it up and trying to win collisions, as long as Argentina fronted up in the tackle, we weren't going anywhere. So there's a number of things that need to be looked at in terms of picking New Zealand apart if we want to beat them.
OK, we'll start with looking at some of the analysis, but we'll just take a break. Coming up, we'll show you the key moments, good and bad, from today's game. You're welcome back to a darkening Aviva. So the first of the three home games has finished in a win for Ireland, and it made for difficult watching at times. Let's take a look at some key moments now. 3 tries, 2 by scrum halves. Luke McGrath got the one in the second half, which was ultimately very important.
A replica of the first try in a sense, because it came off the dominant scrum. Matera, the Argentina captain and flanker, pushes out too quickly and leaves a whole big hole. Now McGrath has to see it. But you watch here, the scrum twists for a start, then Matera goes far too far away. I see it again here, like this, the scrum, say, you see the flanker there, moves out, and it's for the hole. But again, it came off a dominant scrum, really, at the end of the day. It's very hard to defend against when you...
A little bit of awareness that he was moving out, I guess, you know.
Absolutely. And, communication as well.
Well, I think he was trying to help Sanchez, who was likely to end up tackling Bundy Aki, which could be a roadkill for him. He just got going to be a try on one or the other, you know.
OK, roadkill. Anyway, what about the campaign to be number 2 to Conor Murray? Did either scrum half today enhance their claim?
I think Marmion made his case. I think had he not got injured, he'd probably played on, and he did very well. But again, behind a dominant scrum, it's not difficult. But I think, you know, at this point in time, there's no reason to not put Marmion in next week. And he hinted to that, where he'll be starting or on the bench. But I think if his ankle's good, he'll be starting. Like, he's made his case. OK, it was hard to rise above at some stage. And the line-out, obviously, you know, such a strength of the Irish game, gave us all the conniptions in the first half, and it continued into the second. Let's take a look at a couple of the line-outs and pick them apart for us, Stephen.
Yeah, I know I spoke about it earlier on, but you know, just you look at that throw, you look at the jump, it all just seems to be a miscommunication, mistiming. But again, Eddie, you'd probably agree, you've got to give some credit to the Argentinians. They picked big jumpers. As I mentioned at the top of the show, Ian Henderson was talking about, you know, the threat that they have in the air, and they were getting men up constantly and they were spoiling the ball. And you know, probably we always say about Ireland off first phase, especially line-out, they're usually so clinical and very dangerous, and that's where a lot of their line breaks come from.
Is the key guy, though. You know, Devon Toner's on the field, our line-out always fires well. He calls the line-out.
But Eddie, we need to function without Devon Toner as well.
We tried today, it didn't happen.
We tried, it didn't happen. And
absolutely, that's a problem without him in the field. And I think that was what he was trying to find out today, and we knew pretty early in the game that this was a problem. So that feeds into next week. There's no doubt about that.
Retallick destroyed England in the second half.
Yes, but it does restrict. You say the best ball you can get in the midfield was the tail of the end of line-out ball that's clean, and say it was no coincidence that because of the line-out they didn't get the first. I think you saw Johnny Sexton try one wrap around. The Argentinians read it, shut it down. We didn't see.
So that's as old as the hills at this stage.
Well, we didn't see. I know, but we didn't see any clean midfield breaks. Bundy Aki
The other impact we missed at the line-out and this turned the game actually, is that when Devin Turner came on, they couldn't throw down to where Turner was, the Argentinians. They threw where O'Mahony was, who stole the line-out, which led to the try. Yeah. So it affects us when we're attacking, and it affects us when we're defending.
Well, because the throw has to go, the trajectory to get over 6'10" is a lot bigger than.
But Devin was down the line on that line-out, so he couldn't go down the line. He had to go where O'Mahony was, and we know O'Mahony is superb.
You're saying Devin's
these are all small issues, but important.
First name on the team sheet next week, Devin Turner.
I would think so, based on that, yeah.
Well, I mean, if we can't at least get parity in that, we might as well go home.
Yeah, well, the line-out is crucial because, as Popey rightly points out, if you're not getting quality ball, and there's a lot more line-outs than scrums, if you're not getting quality ball off the line-out, whether you want to drive it or take it off the top, it's very hard to get over the gain line and launch attacks and build momentum and build pressure and build your phase game. And we're good at that, always good at that.
Yeah, Ian Henderson, I mean, was he calling those line-outs today?
Yeah, I think he was. He gained so much experience on the Lions tour and had a really good game midweek. I think it was against the Hurricanes. And since then, he's kicked on and he's been very, very good. But today, it just didn't function. And it was more frustration. So when they couldn't win it at the tail, they tried to go to the middle. When they went to the middle and they didn't win it, then more frustration set in. And then they went, right, we need to get a banker ball here, get back to type. And, sometimes if they're putting 2 or 3 jumpers up at a time, you got to hit number 2 all day long and just retain possession. And forget about it.
But it does affect where you can go. Yeah, if you win the ball at 2, it's very hard to get wide off it because it's so far out to the
Absolutely,
the thing is, Joe will look at the teams that he plays. There's absolutely a place for Tyburn and for Ian Henderson at some stage in the second row when you're playing teams that don't have so many jumpers. But when you're playing against the All Blacks and South Africa, be another team that are good in the line-out.
You go back to the big man.
Yes, you have to, because you can try to speed up the game. If Joe was, I reckon he was looking at, do I speed the game up against the All Blacks by looking at Byrne there and looking at Henderson? Do I play that type of game? He'll go back now tonight and say no.
Guaranteed possession.
Yes, exactly.
What about, I mean, the Malays, such as was, might be a bit strong, even affected Johnny Sexton, I mean, who were used to,
Well, he'd have been pulling his hair out because he wasn't getting any first phase possession from line-out. And I think that contributed to his actual game as well. His kicking game was loose. We just see here, this is really a nothing kick. You either kick it long and you get a real hard chase and you make them exit out of their own 22. And that's a great carry there. It gets across the gain line. Or else you make the kick.
This was a dreadful kick, straight into the backfield. It was either fishing or foul. You couldn't contest it, and you could put no pressure on it. Couldn't find the grass. And again, here, it's off a turnover. You think we're going to go here? He hoofs it long. Now, maybe he was looking for the touch there. He got a bad bounce. Ball goes dead. It could have gone dead completely. It would have been a scrum back. But it's not like him.
Well,
those aimless kicks.
It's his standards are so high.
Our game is based on accuracy in those particular areas. We pin teams back. We've done it more with our half. And if we put it in the air, we contest it and we win it back. Yeah. That's been our MO for the last few years under George Smith.
For sure. And no one's coming looking for forgiveness for a fairly mediocre performance, but it's in a wash in the studio. Yeah. Dan Levy had a big contribution when he came in. Other positives to take forward finally, guys? We've, 6.5 days before the
for me,
World Champions?
The biggest positive, as Popey touched on, they didn't play well and they got the victory. That's, this match week, going into the training sessions, going into lift weights on the Monday, Tuesday, there'll still be that positive mentality, positive attitude because they got the victory. If they had lost here today against Argentina, it'd be a completely different ball game next week. So, 10 victories at home.
And transformation needed.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you, guys. Let's just check today's results. And talking about New Zealand, of course, through the prism of that match next week, we'll start by telling you about their narrow victory over England by a single point, and controversial it was too. If you didn't see it, I won't spoil it for you, but there was some offside controversies towards the end. Intriguing game, New Zealand winning by a point. Italy, big one for them against the pretenders to their Six Nations berth, Georgia. Ultimately winning by 11. Russia are in our group in the World Cup. They gave Namibia a bit of a thumping. Scotland pulled away from Fiji. It was tighter into about 50 minutes, but pulled away in the end to put 54 on them. Big win for the US against Samoa, 30-29. Wales 9, Australia 6. France have just gone over for a try. It should be just about coming up to half-time in that. They lead South Africa 16 points to 9. Tomorrow night, the Wild Geese Trophy. That might be a new event. That's because it is, and we're going to bring it to you from down under. It's Galway versus Kilkenny, so a bit of hurling for you in November, 8 o'clock. And against the head, we'll be picking apart this performance, and I would imagine more so looking forward to next weekend. That's Monday at 8. Hope you can join us for that. And of course, we'll see you back here on RTE2 next Saturday. Our coverage for Guinness Series Match 2, Ireland-New Zealand, starts at 6. But that's all we have time for here at the Aviva. Thanks to Stephen, Brent, and thanks to Eddie. We'll see you all again this time next week, and thanks for watching. Go easy.